Good evening, pubbers. It is Sunday, so it's Sunday pub time. How is everyone? How was your week? How was your reading? How was your otherwise life? My life was better this week, I think. I made a point of being out and doing more because I've been staying in and doing too little for a while. And I finally finished Disquiet Gods, the last, not last in the series, but last published Sun Eater book, which was very good and really weird. Thornall's here, Osa's here, Alicia's here, Mr. Bell's here. Another pub needs my help. Yes. For those of you who do not know the game Fallout 4, Brian and I have both played it quite a lot, and we have been joking with each other about some of the really stupid things about it. There's this guy in the game who is one of the guys you help, and you sort of join his faction, and then he's trying to rebuild society after the apocalypse, which is what Fallout's all about. And he constantly, Preston Garvey, he constantly comes up to you and says, there's another settlement that needs your help. I've marked it on your map. And it never stops. Yes, the Minutemen. Exactly, Rogue. So annoying. I would have killed Preston Garvey if I could have. Colton is here. Hello. DK Moon's here. Last 50 pages of the Edan books. Very good. You like weird books? Well, I've got another one for you. I started reading Never Let Me Go by Katsuo Ishiguro yesterday, and I'm almost finished. It's 280 pages. I'm on like page 180. It's one of those books. Being a designer, I open up a book and I'm immediately like, oh, what they did here is you don't want a book to feel too thin unless it's clearly a novella, right? But if you're putting out a novel, it's got to be over 200 pages. It's got to be more like over 250. It's got to be somewhere around 300 kind of minimum to feel like, just even in your hand in this format, to feel like it's not too thin. What they did here is they set the typography about 1 or 2 points larger than normal, which is, for those of you that don't know typography and points, that's like 10 or 20% larger than normal. And they laid out the page with really big margins. So what normally would have been probably 2/3 the size got inflated with larger typography, larger leading, which is the vertical space between the lines, larger type, larger leading, larger margins. So it's a little overblown. So reading like 180 pages since yesterday is like no big deal at all, because the page is really short and it reads really fast. It's good, no question. I am now considering buying everything by Ishiguro and reading it. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature. He won a Booker Prize. He's obviously an accomplished, talented, skilled author. I'll tell you one important thing about this. Don't let anyone tell you anything about this book. It's a book experience that can be ruined by knowing too much. Well, not ruined maybe, but drastically changed. If I ever do a review video, it will be a a reflection on the experience of reading this book, and I won't talk about the story almost at all because there's the story itself, or what's going on around the story, is a big mystery, and it's nice not knowing going in what's going on. I'm 2/3 through the book, and I'm still there's a certain amount of stuff that's actually really, I think, has been explained, but there's still a whole bunch of mystery to it. Ida, I'm sorry, I have to contradict you. This is a gorgeous cover. It's part of a series, like they've published or republished not too long ago all of Ishiguro's books with the same template. So they all have a big square painting in the middle, and they have the title and his name and a bright color in the background. But the colors are all different, and the paintings are all different. It's really, really good. And also interesting, you say, Ida, that the title sounds like a pop song. Well, there's a tape on the cover, and a song which actually exists called "Never Let Me Go" plays a role in the story. So yeah. Yeah, also, I mean, a lot of it, there's two really, really generally, vaguely, there's two things going on in the book. One is he writes people in such a believable way. There's a lot of it's told in first person, and there's a lot of this woman who's sort of telling all of the story, talking about her thoughts and her friends and what they did and what she thought was going on and whatever. And it just feels like people. It feels very real. And there's that experience, which is like just reading about her experiences and her friends and whatever. But then there's this kind of weirdness going on around it. And it's such a strange mix between mundane, because you've got this very mundane feeling kind of life and her doing stuff with her friends, and she's talking about their when they were teenagers and all of the petty stupid stuff that teenagers do with each other, and it all feels extremely mundane, not boring, but mundane. But then every now and then she drops something, mentions something in the story where you're like, what are you talking about? And very believably, because this is a person who is in the middle of these experiences, she doesn't stop and explain them. She just drops these little references in there and moves on. And that's the mystery part. Look who it is.
Hello, my name is Elder Nuts, and I would like to share with you this most amazing book. Hello.
You recently saw that, didn't you? I think
It's taken over my
you mention
entire
it.
life. Yeah, I listen to it literally every day. It's a problem. It is a problem, my friend. How you doing?
I had that when I was in my 20s. I went to a live performance of Les Mis, and I listened to the soundtrack on repeat for ages. Ida, no, it does not have dragons in it. Like I said, it feels very mundane. I was just talking about Never Let Me Go. But it's in a completely non-spoilery way. It, like, not knowing what the weird mystery behind the story is, I think, is important. So
yeah. I don't know anything about it. It's the next book from him that I'm going to read, and I've been kind of saving it. But I said this the other night. I think it's going to be pretty hard to top Remains of the Day for me. That book is about perfect, I think.
I haven't read anything by him. I bought Clara and the Sun
I have that as well.
year. Yeah, I had actually a really, I think it's really normal with us all that we have a book
Mhm.
buying binge, but I had a really weird book buying binge where I bought like a stack of books about artificial intelligence. And
Ah,
non-fiction, fiction, all that. And Clara and the Sun is kind of an AI, but it's novel.
yeah.
So that was one of the ones I got. It's been on my shelf ever since, and I haven't touched it yet.
Have you ever read
But
Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark?
that is one of the ones I bought.
Yeah, so this one is interesting. I read it, and I think it was published a little while ago, like 2016, maybe. And it's really interesting because he proposes this fictional scenario to open the book, where like he's basically saying that like behind the scenes AI is being used to create like there's a media company that's using AI and algorithms to give you exact content of what you want. And eventually, you know, it ends up being that the scripts are written by AI, then the actors are AI, and people aren't realizing, you know, and they're able to turn them out so fast that they take over the streaming world. And it's kind of interesting because
We're there almost.
yeah, it's at least on that same road. I don't know where it divides or whatever it will do, but I think that Max had it pretty well in this book. I never actually finished it. I was like 3/4 through the audiobook, and I think I ended up just saying I'll finish it later. Never did. But
There
it's a
are
really
already there are excuse me. There are already YouTube channels that are entirely AI
oh yeah,
generated.
yeah, yeah. Mine is. I'm not real.
No.
Actually.
Yeah, but you're actually, at least you're an Android. I mean,
Yeah, this is Nut GPT. Actually, this is
not PT. Yeah,
yes,
JPT.
yes.
Jimmy. Yeah, no, actually, the book that got me started on AI, and it's amazing and super interesting, but also slightly terrifying, is one called Superintelligence, by I can't quite see it from here. What's his name? I always forget his name.
I'll tell you in just a second.
Yeah, tell me.
Nick Bostrom.
Nick Bostrom. Nick Bostrom is an Oxford, I believe, professor of philosophy.
2016.
Yeah. Also been around for a while, that book. And he's a professor of philosophy, and he got interested and maybe concerned about AI and the potential futures. And he went out and talked to, I think, something like 250 experts in the field all over the world, and then wrote this book. And it's such a good book. It goes into it, like it breaks down what is even the idea of consciousness, and where would we say that an AI becomes maybe frightening, not just kind of disturbing, but actually frightening and potentially humanity threatening.
Yeah.
He plays through a lot of theoretical sort of thought experiments. What could happen if an AI goes wrong? It's really, really good, but it's also, like I said, it's kind of nightmare fuel, because
Yeah.
his conclusions are not really extremely optimistic.
Yeah, I see that even Sam Altman, the leader of OpenAI, actually said it's an excellent book and it's the best thing I've ever seen on the topic. It's well worth the
Yeah.
read. So that's
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, everything else that I've looked at since reading that has felt a little light.
Yeah.
Because this is really, it's like super well structured, and it starts, he lays it out in the first chapter. It's sort of, he's like, okay, if we want to really talk about this, we have to understand this first, and then this first, and then this first. So I'm going to start there. And he just breaks it down all the way through and looks at all of the sort of theoretical and practical ways of creating an AI, which are actually being used by people at the moment, or back then anyway. Probably hasn't changed too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. Really, really interesting. Highly recommended.
Yeah, you know the problem is
Rabin knows what he's talking about.
there's so many nonfiction books. I'm like, man, got to get to that this year. And I haven't read a nonfiction book in a minute. I mean, I read like excerpts from things, but like, man.
We both have channels that kind of are based on reading fiction.
Yeah, and I kind of took a pretty hard.
I don't have much of a channel anymore, actually, but you know.
I took a hard stance that nonfiction readers rule the world, and that's what's wrong with the world. So I feel like I can't read nonfiction, or it's really going to hurt my propaganda mill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Bring down the nuts empire.
Yeah, I can't go off brand. I'm really big into marketing, as you can tell.
There'll be revolution in the comments, and
yeah,
you got to stay on brand.
Yeah,
you gotta,
brand's
gotta
important.
absolutely stay on brand.
You know me,
Very-
I'm always focused and not.
You're
reading
all about
quickly.
brand.
Yes,
I mean, otherwise
clearly.
you wouldn't have Bobby B over your left shoulder there all the time.
You
That's
know,
totally branding.
he's really the lifeblood of what I do.
I miss him. Like your vlogs, there's no Bobby B, and I'm
that
like,
is true.
This was the only reason I was here.
You know what the problem is that I never get enough feedback about Bobby B, because I'll put a bit in and I'll be like, that's a killer. Like I'll laugh like multiple times while doing it and editing, and I might get no comments about it. But if I get one and they're like, dude, that was funny, I'm like, thank you, I appreciate it. Like that makes my day more than anything else.
Yeah,
when someone finds my stupid Bobby B bits funny.
I know the feeling. There's always, like, every time you do a video, there's always something in it where you're like, that's the good bit.
Yeah.
And then nobody mentions it.
See, the thing is, you take the good bit, and this is what they tell you to do. You should clip it and then make it a short, and then people will actually watch it.
Right. Yeah, true.
I'm not going to do that.
No.
It sounds like work.
It sounds like marketing and brand on brandness. Yeah. Yeah. What is Sunshine Thornall? Touch grass, my friend.
I need some, man. I'm pale. I'm looking at myself. I just can't.
I've been my mood has been steadily improving over the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been having, like, let me translate into American.
I appreciate this, by the way.
Fahrenheit. Yeah. Okay. So sort of mid 70s.
Oh man, that's nice.
Yeah, and it's like, especially if you're coming out of a Berlin winter where it's kind of wet and doesn't really snow here. So like,
really,
no.
Huh.
I think last winter we had one day of very light, barely snow, and that was it. So yeah, people in Minnesota, Tori and Brian, will laugh at me, but you know, after a long, gray, cold, rainy winter, like getting some 70, 75 degree days where I can sit out on the balcony, go for a walk, whatever, is just like, oh, such a relief.
It's not so much like the cold. I mean, I don't like the cold, but like the grayness is what really wears you down. I think it's
absolutely.
It's because there's sunny winter days. You're like, oh, let's put on a jacket and go somewhere. Like it's just kind of inviting. You know, it has rained 19 of like 20 weekends or something where I live. On the weekends, like specifically on the weekends,
just on the weekends,
dude, it's bullshit. I get so mad. Like all week, it's beautiful. I'm like, man, this weekend, I love walking, and where I live is like very walkable. So I'm like, oh, I love walking. And every freaking time, it's like it's either that or like the weather isn't like we keep getting like 50-degree days, and I'm like, I don't want this, you know? Like,
no, I mean, I grew up in Australia, right? So for me, like, warm weather sort of starts at about 80 in your degrees.
Yeah.
Like if it's below that, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of cool, you know, like even mid 70s, like 25 degrees over here. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of nice, but it's not really warm yet, you know.
Yeah.
This isn't summer.
Summer is thin blood like Floridians do. I didn't know this until
thin blood, as in like they get cold at high temperatures.
Yeah, but no, Alan explained this. I didn't know this, but like literally, if you live in Florida, they've proven your blood is thinner, and that's why if it gets
literally, actually, physically, biologically thinner,
and that's what people are like, oh, 65. What are you complaining about? But it's like, no, literally, their blood's thinner, so they're cold at 65.
Oh wow!
I didn't know any of this. This blew my mind. And it has all kinds of like health repercussions too, which I didn't understand.
I didn't realize that. My dad was born in Florida, and my childhood I spent a lot of time in Jacksonville and St. Augustine. And my stepmother, who still lives there, my dad died years ago, but my stepmother, she turns on the air conditioning so late but turns on the heating like at 70, 65, 70, you know, like then she's like, it's kind of getting cold. You're like,
well, that's just, I think it's a blood thing.
yeah, maybe she actually physically has thinner blood. She was also born in Florida to a long line of Floridian rednecks. So who knows?
That's a different type of redneck.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Florida has its own breed of
This
redneck.
is like, I consider this personally, because I've traveled a lot and lived all over the place. I consider this a very valuable experience. I have a stepmother who has a PhD, taught at university, super smart lady, but she comes from literal swamp rednecks.
Yeah, it's like a different thing almost.
In the middle of nowhere in Florida. And I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time with them when I was a kid. So like, I feel like I have a strangely accurate understanding of redneckism. That nobody who grew up in Australia should, you know. Oh my God, it's Evie.
Oh
It's
my
also
God.
Jimmy. Yeah.
It's only Evie. She was only Evie.
It's Evie cuts through water.
Slow, if you will.
I will admit that I specifically invited Jimmy because the Sunday pub is a weird phenomenon, and it's not that common on BookTube, that anyone can join on screen, literally anyone. But the people who are used to being invited to join someone on screen rarely do, because they're used to being invited. So
Sunday also just happens to be the day where I leave the house the most.
Yeah, no, and it's because of time zones. It's also kind of a weird thing, you know.
Yeah,
because,
I was
like,
watching back on Monday. That's kind of one of my rituals, actually.
for me, it's like 8:30 at night right now, and I never go out on a Sunday night, so it's perfect. But with other people in all sorts of different places, who knows when it is, and like it's the middle of your day, so you know. But yeah, I specifically invited Jimmy. Everybody gets one invite. Booktubers get one free invite where I show them what it is and tell them where to find the link. And then if you want to join every week after that, you're welcome to. But only one invite.
Only one. That's it. One freebie.
Everybody is amazed that you're here.
I don't know why. I mean, I
because
do,
you're a big deal, and I don't even make videos
I'm not.
anymore.
I'm not.
Are so a big deal, dude.
I'm literally not. In fact, sometimes I wonder what am I doing? what do I do anymore? I don't really know. Sunday.
Actually, I was watching. I wrote you earlier. I was watching your last vlog with my coffee this morning, and I was vlogging rereading Lord of the Rings. And I had such mixed feelings about vlogging while I was doing it. And I think I figured out what the problem was. I was trying to closely sort of vlog my experience with a particular book.
Yeah.
Right. So every time I finished a chapter, I was like, shit, I should probably put the book down and record something and get back to the book. And I wasn't enjoying the recording, and I wasn't enjoying the book. And it's just like, eh. But I was watching your vlogs, and I was like, I may try doing something similar.
Yeah, mine's way less about like every few pages, but like I there are times where like something happens. I'm like, okay, I should record about this because this is insane type deal. But there's a lot of it being like kind of like I'm starting the book, I'm in the middle of the book, and I finish the book. I like to keep the vlog to like 3 to 4 parts mostly. I think this next one I'm going to have up, which is taking way too long to do, will be like 5 parts. But I would drive myself mad, you know. And also, if I don't have anything to say about it, I'm just like, all right, well, I finished it.
Yeah,
it was great. All right, moving on. You know, it's just like
also your little like
interludes
with life and cats and whatever. It's
yeah,
charming, you know.
It's nice. I appreciate it. Luckily, I've been doing like well, some of it's luckily, but I've been doing like a lot of traveling and stuff. Yeah. So it has kind of worked out. Like this next vlog, I wanted to get the vlog done while I was in New York. It didn't end up happening at all, actually. So like all of my interlude footage this time will most likely be like New York City stuff from my trip.
Oh, cool.
Book of Mormon, the
Right.
marquee will be on there. So that helps. But I know I'm going to have multiple, many of my vlogs are just going to be cats because I don't do a lot of stuff. It seems like I do. I do travel a decent amount for work, every few months, but
Which is always interesting.
yeah, it also makes those trips a little less awful. Like, because I hate traveling for work. It's like literally the only thing I hate about my job is the travel. So it's like it makes it a little less. It's like, okay, well, at least I'll have, because I always read a ton because I have the flights and I'm sitting in a hotel. I
Yeah.
don't go out. I don't talk to any of my coworkers really. So it's like I might as well read and film.
Cool coworkers that you can get drunk with, and traveling for work to interesting places helps a lot.
Yeah. For me, it's just always Denver. It's just Denver.
Okay.
And
okay.
I'm good. No offense to all you Denverians out there, but I'm good. I'm out.
Yeah. We have a request from Mr. Bill. Would you consider singing your next vlog?
Probably not. But maybe. I mean, I don't know. I see for the vlogs, I don't plan anything. Like I don't know. The vlog is very in the moment. So I guess in the moment, if I feel like singing, I will. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Now I feel like I should.
Do you have a voice worth listening to?
I used to. I used to be
like singing voice.
Yeah. I used to be a tenor in high school when I was a part of show choir, and I loved singing. But it's been a long time. My voice changed a little bit. I also hurt my voice wrestling because I would scream a lot, and it ended up kind of affecting how high I could get with my voice. So I'm more of a baritone now. But I'm not anything. I'm not anything special. So I like singing. But.
I think I have a good voice for singing, and I like singing, and I've never had any training at it, and I have no idea anything like that. Jimmy was in a show choir.
Yeah, barbershop quartet stuff and all that. Yeah, I loved it. Choir is my favorite class. Yeah. My wife said I should have went into theater instead of wrestling, and I agree now. After seeing Book of Mormon, I'm like, oh, like I could have had a lot of fun with this. This would have been great.
It also tends to damage your body less.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of demands when it's a physical show, but like on the whole, you're not getting hit in the head a lot, and that's a plus in every way. So
not getting hit in the head is one of my favorite things.
Hindsight's 2020 and all that.
Sorry, Nevo. I know you're D&Ding always when I'm pubbing, but if you get out in time, stop by. Hi, Mac. Good to see you. You know Max Garfield.
Oh Jimmy. Yeah, the ultimate reference.
Do you also get like 2 meter long comments from him?
Start a blog. I said you should start a blog or a channel because like you have information people would really find interesting.
He's been posting stuff on the Fireside Discord. He's reading Sun Eater right now, and Rocky O like connects those books to everything,
Yeah,
and Mac, after each book, has been writing literally meters long posts of this refers to this refers to this comes from this book. This comes from, it's insane.
Yeah, to have that kind of knowledge, only one person can have all those references. You know what I mean? Like not many people are gonna be able to connect all those dots. So I think
I hope he's doing a lot of research. I hope he doesn't just know all of this.
I think he just knows
off the top of his head.
I think he just knows it.
I don't know. Don't reveal your secrets, Mac. But
did you like book 6? You finished it, right?
I did. I finished it yesterday.
Where does it rank in the series for you? I haven't read it yet.
It's mixed. It felt almost like 2 different books because the end of book 5, Ashes of Man.
Mm-hmm.
If that's where you're starting with the next book, you have a lot of kind of slow stuff to do before you can get back into the epic shit.
Yeah, you gotta,
it's kind of a dip. So the first third of the book is honestly a little boring. It's kind of slow.
I like boring. I'm a pretty big fan of boring.
I know, and I'm kind of that's what I was saying about this. This is it's. I was hesitating to use the word boring, but it's mundane.
Yeah, I love mundane stuff. That's that's my jam.
This is such a weird mix. Like, I'm not going to spoil anything because you have to. I mean, it's so much better, I think, to try and figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
And not know while you're going along. But there's basically a very mundane story about a girl growing up
Yeah.
and doing shit with her friends and you know, like, and he
Yeah.
writes people so well
Yes.
that
Yes.
it's like teenage girls being petty to each other and weird little
Mhm.
plots and all this sort of stuff. But it's so mundane. And every now and then the character drops something that you're like, what are you talking about?
That's how Pale Veil of Hills was as well. Like I said, you could finish that book and be like, okay, what? Why? Why is this even written?
I mean, there's obviously like, I haven't gotten to the end yet, but I think I've figured out. I mean, there's a drop sort of about a third of the way through where you're like, okay, basically kind of roughly in the background, this weird thing that's going on. I think I get it now. And it's disturbing and sinister. In this mundane girl's life, you know, it's really, really, really interesting. It's really, really interesting.
He tends to find magic in the everyday, which is one of the reasons why I really liked Remains of the Day. I mean, Remains of the Day has a lot to do with like what you do with your time on Earth. I mean, that's really what that book's about, and it is neither brutal nor encouraging. It's 100 different people could feel a different way about reading Remains of the Day.
Yep.
But it's something else, man.
I got about halfway through this and I went on Amazon and I was like, do they have this edition? Because I think these editions are beautiful.
Yeah, I like those.
And they republished all of his work in these editions.
Mm-hmm.
I went on there and I was like, have they got everything he's ever written in these editions? I think I might just order all of it to make sure I get those editions, and I will definitely read it. And they're easy reads too.
His writing, as I say, actually, I think the thing that was most impressive about him is his writing. It is so smooth and readable. I mean, he's just one of those guys. If I open up one of his books, if I don't have anything else to do, I'm gonna finish it. Like that. That's just how easy it is to read. Now, I do think Pale View of Hills is a little rough around the edges when it comes to his prose. Like it's still great.
His first book, I mean.
Yes, but it's not as refined as Remains of the Day was. I mean, Remains of the Day, it's like, I mean, it's like drinking water. You're just like, okay, I could chug this. This is fine.
Yeah.
But back to Sun Eater. I'm curious. Did you like books 4 and 5? Were you a big fan?
5, not so much. 4 is, I always have a hard time remembering.
Kingdoms of Death.
Kingdoms of Death. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was kind of mixed on Kingdoms of Death because there is a lot of it which is pretty dark and rough to read about. And I just got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm not actually enjoying this right now.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I actually didn't like the first quarter of Kingdoms of Death. I thought that part was not enjoyable. But I didn't. So I love the first 3 books, like books 2 and 3 especially. Book 2 is still one of probably my favorite reads in recent memory. Howling Dark, which I've heard Disquiet Gods is a little stranger, so it's a little bit more akin to Howling Dark, and I'm like, ooh, okay.
The last half of Disquiet Gods, it felt a lot like parts of Howling Dark, and even weirder. Like you get a lot more. The weirdness from Howling Dark, you get a lot more like, what exactly is this in Disquiet Gods?
Okay, that's encouraging to hear, because Ashes of Man is my least favorite by a large margin for me. Kingdoms of Death ended up kind of being a little bit one note, but that's the book split. Like I think the falling action in that book is actually really amazing, but yeah, Ashes of Man, not my favorite. There's some character stuff I didn't like. At all.
No, it didn't grab me nearly as much. I would say probably also the lowest. I think.
Yeah, it's my lowest, and I was a little concerned, like what else is going to happen in this series? Like I'm kind of curious. I still like Sun Eater, obviously, and I still hold those first 3 books in extremely high regard for how fun they are, but also how cool some of the stuff is.
I mean, that was the thing that saved Kingdoms of Death for me. Like it was getting a bit one note. It was getting a bit dark and almost depressing, and then extremely epic shit popped off. You know?
Yeah, I'm very curious.
Then I was like, okay, I mean, the epicness of the last part of the book saved the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look,
Yeah.
there's a Fitz.
Yeah, I see Fitz back there. I'm very curious to see apparently he has a fantasy series in mind. I don't know if that's confirmed, if that's what he's going to write next, but I'd be curious because he does do epic so well.
He does really, really epic shit. Pretty damn good. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, another epic, then I said this in my vlog. I said, hey, everyone talks about Sun Eater being this epic sci-fi. What about Many Colored Land, dude? I mean, the end of that first book, that's all I've read, but the end of that first book,
I was blown away. I literally had, just a couple of weeks ago, I had like an hour where I was racking my brain, my old squishy brain, where I was thinking, I read a really, really epic series that I loved. But I mean, this is back in high school.
Yeah.
And I was in high school in the 80s. Yeah. So, and I was like, I can even remember characters' names from the book. Like Aiden Drum, you know, like somehow that name has never left my head. And Torques, and I know there was high technology that feels like magic, you know, all this sort of stuff. And I was like, I can remember so many details from it. I can't remember what it was. And then I was searching all over the place, and eventually I found Julian May, Many Colored Land, and all of that again. And then I opened your vlog, and you're talking about it. I've never heard anyone talk about it.
It's so gone. Like
it's just like disappeared.
But it's good.
It's really so good.
Yeah, I was very happy. And the fact that it has a companion novel just tells you like the level of detail there is. And actually, McScarfield, you want to talk about references. That entire series is based on historical references, like Celtic mythology.
And yeah.
And there's like a lot of meta aspects to it. It's good stuff. I like it. There's a bit of that 80s charm to it too, no doubt for when it was published. But like, largely, I enjoyed book one. Now, I had some stuff about it. I said, this is a little weird. I didn't know if I like this part, but like overall, very interesting. Like compelling. I bought book two. I'm going to read it hopefully soon, which is a lot because I start series all the time and never read book two. Like I'm reading Soldier Son right now by Hobb.
Oh, right. What are you thinking about that?
I think it's actually a solid book. I thought this was going to be way worse because like people are like, oh, it's like even Derry hates it. Like Derry hates it. Like terrible. But
I quite liked it. I mean, it's got a very dark and somber mood to it.
I think the world,
but I liked it,
is cooler than the Realm of the Elderlings world. And by cool, I don't mean because there's flashy stuff, but like I find that she's fleshing out stuff a little bit earlier in this book. That in Realm of the Elderlings, she waited to the. It's a slice of life. That's what Realm of the Elderlings said. It's an epic slice of life, not epic fantasy, maybe, but epic slice of life. And I feel like Soldier Son is kind of trying to balance the two. I think it fails in some aspects when it comes to the character of Navarre, but it's not like it's solid. Like it's definitely solid. Now, is it blowing me away? No, not really. Though I'm near the end, and there's some weird stuff, and I'm like, oh, I kind of want to see where this goes.
It's also like because I have such a crap memory, I often judge books on how much they leave behind in my brain years after I've read them. And I still have scenes from Soldier Son series in my head, and I read it like 20 years ago. You know, so there are bits that stuck in my head because especially the visual world building in some places, like with the forest and everything, was really, really intense. And I really enjoyed it. I just wanted to pull up something quickly.
Go for it.
Because back in the day when I read
Julian May.
Let me how do I just share a damn
should be able to present. Hit
image.
Present.
Yeah, I've got present. Add file from your computer. Okay, got it. Upload file. Desktop. Oh, I can't. It won't let me just present a JPEG.
What you can do is right-click the picture and then open in Chrome and then share the Chrome tab.
There you go. Oh. This is why I like having smart people in the pub.
Just worked IT for like 10 years before I switched careers.
Don't tell anyone I work in IT too.
Oh no. Yeah, I was gonna say I thought so. Right?
But I'm a designer. We don't need to know these things.
Yeah, yeah. It's like now that I'm a dev, I just act like I don't know how to fix printers.
Yeah,
Like, can
exactly.
someone fix them?
So this was maybe not the very first, but it was kind of the big deal cover back in the day, back in the 80s.
You-
And it says nothing about the book. Like I literally saw this in bookshops for years, and I thought it was like some sort of caveman story, so I never read it
Yeah, this does not represent that book
at all.
in the least.
At all, no.
In the least. It's actually very original. That's the thing that's awesome about it. Is
It's a cool picture.
yeah.
This is the cover. Oh wait, now I have to
It's
reshare it.
It's just so not what the story is.
This is the cover. Wait a sec. Share screen. This one. This is the cover that you're reading and that I read, and that much better represents what the book is actually about.
Yes, it is much more. I think it's closer to and you know what? I shouldn't even say it, but I'll say it because I don't care. I think it's closer to like Book of the New Sun vibe than it is like a Lord of the Rings to me. You know, and a lot of people compare those two, but not in a sense of like being very hard to understand and kind of like disguised or any of that stuff. No, it's just like it's really wacky. Like there's a lot of weird stuff there. I love this cover, dude. This cover is fantastic.
This particular edition series, all of the covers.
That's what I
are. They totally kick, but I can't find them. I ended up like once I remembered who this was and what the series was, I looked around and I was like, I can't get these without paying postage from America, so I just bought them on Kindle.
Yeah,
so I've got all 4 of them on my Kindle, and I'll get to them at some point.
I've been hunting them down on eBay and Biblio.com, and I got the first 2 as a set. Someone had them, but they're a little harder to come by, and they're not in print. And I think that's the big thing that happened with the series. But
I mean, they're 30 plus years old, that edition, you know, so not easy to find.
That first one said next Lord of the Ring. It'll be rival the Lord of the Rings and Foundation. That didn't age well, but it should tell you how the series was looked at before it went out of print, because it was popular. I mean, a lot of people.
It was super popular. Everybody was talking about it. It was on every shelf. Everybody I knew who was into sci-fi or fantasy had read it.
Yeah.
It was the big thing back then. You know, it was one of the really big things back then.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Daniel says, that cover with the mammoth skull, it's a very striking cover. Like it's a very memorable image. And it was everywhere. And it literally took me like 5 or 6 years of seeing it all over the place to eventually pick it up with the second cover, start reading it, and then realize that the mammoth skull cover was the same book, you know? And I was like, this isn't it. I thought it was cavemen something. Like, not at all.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that is kind of part of the charm of the book. And that's why in my vlog, I had to be very careful. But like, I'm just like, what you expect of this book, even after the first 120 pages, is not what you're about to get from this book. I mean, it is batshit crazy.
It's pretty bizarre. And she sort of throws everything in.
Yeah, and I like her writing too. It's not like overly flowery. It's not the best prose of all time, but it's very good, I think. And I like her dialogue. Her conversations are nice. Just overall, what if I told you I could connect Robin Hobb and Julian May in this whole discussion? Would you believe me?
I mean, I assume that they knew each other, or
Robin Hobb
know each other.
Sci-fi book called Alien Earth.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, dude. Look at this cover. This is
Megan Lindholm. Yeah,
I don't know if my camera.
It's not focusing now.
Yeah, but it's the only bad thing about my Panasonic. But yeah, it has a very reminiscent cover, like just palette wise, to it. But yeah, this is Robin Hobb's standalone sci-fi, and now it focuses on Bobby B. Okay,
Bobby B was in the background waving, so it
absurd. Yeah, it's a standalone Robin Hobb sci-fi novel, and I've been saying I was going to read this for like 5 since I started my channel, and I always bring it up as a random tidbit, but like I wonder if it's good.
Derry's not here, but Robin Hobb has so many names. I forget what her real name is because it's not Megan Lindholm. I thought Megan Lindholm was her original name,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
not.
she took on Robin Hobb, but Megan Lindholm was her first pen name. And Robin Hobb is her second pen name, and her real name is
Margaret.
it
Astor
worked.
Lindholm.
Look at that. I mentioned Derry, and she literally just jumped into the chat.
It worked. I'm here. That's so funny. She's got it on lock, man.
Margaret something. Exactly.
Yeah, it's Margaret Lindholm. Yeah.
Margaret Lindholm Ogden. Yeah, exactly.
Well, we got
Ogham.
Ogden. We got
Ogham.
Ogham.
I
She's done a great job. We don't know.
I tend to believe Derry more than anyone else. Yeah, exactly. She's got Margaret Lindholm Ogden Ogham Hobb. Yeah.
Her taxes are a mess.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine. My God.
She wrote a science fiction book. That I did not know. Derry, I'm sure did, but
How many
standalone.
pages? This bad boy's 400 pages. Here, let me read the first. I'll read the first few lines. We'll see if this is going to tickle our fancy. The table was cold and hard under his back. Metal, shiny stainless steel. And he was naked, save for a blue paper hospital gown that came about halfway down his thighs. All right, I'm not going to read it because it's literally her just describing the entire thing, which is very Robin Hobb-esque.
It is.
There's a naked guy, so that's kind of interesting.
Let me I was just rereading it myself. Let me read you the first few lines of this weird shit.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
Oh my God.
He has good hooks.
Because the interesting thing also, now that I'm a bit through the book, is he introduces pretty much all of the mysteries of the book in the first couple of sentences. My name is Kathy H. I'm 31 years old and I've been a carer now for over 11 years. That sounds long enough, I know, but actually they want me to go on for another 8 months until the end of this year. That'll make it almost exactly 12 years. Now, I know my being a carer so long isn't necessarily because they think I'm fantastic at what I do. There are some really good carers who've been told to stop after just 2 or 3 years. And I can think of one carer at least who went on for all of 14 years despite being a complete waste of space. So I'm not trying to boast. But then I do know for a fact that they've been pleased with my work, and by and large, I have too. My donors have always tended to do much better than expected. Their recovery times have been impressive, and hardly any of them have been classified as agitated, even before a fourth donation. You're like, why don't you have a surname? Why is your last name H? What is a carer? What is a donation? Why are donors agitated? Who's donating what?
See, and this is what he does in his other books. It's conversational with the reader. And when it's conversation with the reader, what you have to also figure out is what they're not telling you. Because when we talk to people, we're constantly projecting or having cognitive biases, you know what I mean? Or dissonance, rather. And then we're trying to explain away our biases if we're at all self-aware. And he does that through his characters with the reader. It's so interesting.
The thing he does so well, and it's one of the things I love about Steven Erikson. Like mostly throughout the Malazan Book of the Fallen, Erikson doesn't sit you down with a wise character who explains everything to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You experience things and figure them out. People in the world don't explain them because they wouldn't explain them because they already know what they are, so they're not explaining them.
Yeah.
Ishiguro's character, this Kathy H., she's just telling us a story, and she uses words every now and then or like shorthands a situation where, of course, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? That is bizarre. If it means what I think it means, which maybe isn't true, maybe wrong, but if it's anything like I think, it's really not normal. But for Kathy H., it's totally normal.
We can get used to anything as humans.
So she just starts talking about it, you know, and she'll just mention something offhand where you're like, excuse me, Kathy H., we have to come back to that.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was, but that's weird.
I just read a scene in Gardens of the Moon a while back when I was rereading it, and something happens, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And Quick Ben just goes, right. And you're like, what? Fuck you, Quick Ben. Tell me what you're say your thoughts out loud like a normal fantasy protagonist. Quit trying to hide shit from
Quick Ben is also admittedly, like, in the entire cast of 600 people, the
The most-
worst at sharing information with
Yeah, he's so
anyone,
confusing
ever.
because of who he is. But like, it's like,
Well, first of all, he's like one of the only characters that almost always knows what's going on, and he is the least open about what's going on.
I mean,
You
even
know?
with his buds, they're like, "Oh, what's
Yeah.
Quick up to?" And he's like, "He's just being Quick. He's in the Warrens." And you're like, "Well,
He's
what the
doing
fuck is
something.
this?"
Yeah.
Oh God,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that stuff because you can use it to great effect, and I think
Yeah.
at times that can also substitute for fireballs and lasers, which I love. But like
And there's
those,
lots of lasers and fireballs in Malazan anyway.
yes, there's not in Ishiguro.
No, not so much.
But those are his big moments, is whenever we come to an understanding of what has become normal for whatever the character is. Same thing in Remains of the Day. It's about a butler, and like
Yeah.
things that we would find very odd about a post World War II butler is just normal everyday life.
Sure.
Like, well, of course, my what would it be, my sir, I guess. Like, what is a butler's? I don't want to say owner because not owner, but it's like my boss.
No,
what's the proper term? Lord?
Employer. I mean,
Yes. Well, my employer did talk to some Nazis, but like he was talking to the good Nazis, and you're like, wait, what? Excuse me? And it like, but it's normal. It was normal. So it's God, I love when authors do that though, man.
Yeah.
I just started Kurt Vonnegut. Is that how you say it? Vonnegut?
Vonnegut.
I didn't know how to say it. But John had recommended it to me on Chatwood Nuts, the
Which
short
one are you
stories
reading?
monkey.
I just ordered it after watching you guys.
Yeah, I read the first story and I have no idea what to think other than his writing is tremendous. It's so good. But like the first story was very strange and I don't know what happened. Like I know what happened, but I don't know why it happened. And I think I missed something. But I love that his short stories are truly short stories, like 7 to 10 pages long. And I'm like, it's not like every time I crack open a George R. R. Martin short story, it's 60 pages. And I'm like,
yeah,
I know this is technically a short story, but
it's not short enough.
Yeah, can we get a little shorter? Like just a little shorter for me. I don't mind a long one every now and then, a long one, but it's also weird, right? If someone tells you it's a short story and it's 60 pages, we read 60 pages in a fantasy chapter, but for some reason, the way stories are paced, that 60 pages can feel long. That's so weird.
There are single chapters in Malazan that are twice that long.
230 pages or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Longer than Stoner by John Williams. That's crazy. That's crazy, dude.
But still, I mean, at least for me, totally riveting. Like the famous one, chapter 7 of Bone Hunters.
Bone Hunters, yep. It's one of the best things I've ever read.
I couldn't put it down. I made the mistake of starting it at 11 at night.
Oh yeah, that was.
I was like, I'm just going to be up until 3.
I had so many people
do anything about it.
They were like, "Don't start it unless you can finish it." And I took, I think it was like a whole Saturday afternoon, and I just read through it. Read some passages twice. I mean, I love Malazan so much. I really do.
Absolutely. I wanted a break. I wanted something completely different and shorter after Disquiet Gods, which is why I'm reading this. And also because this was a very, very kind and generous gift from my lovely friend Tori, and I just wanted to read it. So, but next up on my Malazan reread is Reaper's Gale, and I've been looking at, like, it's as thick as my head.
Yeah,
I've been looking at that chunk for a while and feeling intimidated, and I think it's about time I started it. So maybe next.
Yeah, Reaper's Gale was one of those books. When I first read it, I said, this is probably my least favorite. I still loved it, but I would say this is my least favorite of the series so far. And then I remember having the discussion at the end. I go, dude, that book was sick. Like, I was like, man, for my least favorite, that was baller, and then there was also some stuff I had not caught that was pretty excellent as well. But pretty big book. I mean, it really does kind of catapult it into the final 3, which is like its own trilogy in some ways. So Malazan is just such a unique series in some ways.
It's like nothing else.
Yeah. Were you? Here's a question. I don't mean to make this a Malazan discussion, but
it often is. It's totally fine.
Were you satisfied with the ending of Malazan?
Mostly. I've been thinking about it now because I've been rereading it for like a year.
Yeah.
And I sort of stalled when I got up to, okay, Reaper's Gale's next. And then I was like, well, maybe I've I need a Malazan break. But I've been thinking about it lately, and there is so much going on, and it's so complex in a lot of ways. In, like you said, the last three, that I have a hard time remembering exactly what happened. I have pictures in my head of particular things, like the very end. But it felt almost like it frayed a bit to me. Like, up until the last couple of books, it felt pretty solid, and I was tracking everything, and it was maybe a bit more, I don't know, compact and together feeling. And at the end, it feels like it goes in so many different directions, and so many things happening in so many places all at once, that it just lost me a little bit. And I'm looking forward to reading the end again.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know now, I think I'll enjoy it a lot more and understand it a lot more.
Yeah. I like The Cripple God quite a bit. But there is some things about it that I'm like, wait, so why did, like, things earlier in the series, like when I was rereading Gardens of the Moon, like obviously there's a lot of stuff that you're like, wow, like book 1 and 10 go together. You're just like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
But then there's also stuff I'm like, I forgot about this conflict with these characters. Why the hell did this character do this thing? And then, of course, someone annoyingly, his name's Philip, he always says, oh, you got to read novels of Malazan Empire.
I plan on doing that. My Malazan, I call it my read because I'm reading for the first time some things and rereading a number of things. My plan is the ultimate reading order. Which, yeah, that's what they call it. It comes from the forums.
Yeah, let's pull this up.
Whole bunch of if you Malazan reading order. There's a page.
Give one? Didn't he give like an official reading order or some madness? Right?
I don't know about that.
Here, let me find it.
But there's a concurrent publishing order reading list. And then there's the ultimate, which came out of the forums, a bunch of fans discussing what they think fits where best.
Yeah.
And I'm using that one. It's pretty similar. It's pretty similar to the concurrent reading order, concurrent publishing order.
All right. So there's a discussion thread with spoilers, and there's one without. So this is, oh my goodness, this is insane. All right. First
on the wiki?
Yeah. It's 25 books long, first off, which is ridiculous.
Which is not all of them yet.
And it's not even as much as Shannara, which is crazy. Gardens of the Moon, Deadhouse Gates, Blood Follows, The Lees of Laughter's End, The Worms of Blearmouth. Then he goes to Memories of Ice, House of Chains, The Healthy Dead. I don't even know what the hell that is.
That's a Bo Kalain and Corbel Broach.
Oh, that must be the other collection I don't have.
It's one of the novellas, yeah.
Okay.
It's hilarious, actually. The Healthy Dead is hilarious. It's a piss take on wellness.
I could like that.
It's really good. It's really good.
Really good.
Super funny.
Okay, so you go from Healthy Dead to Midnight Ties. Then you go to Night of Knives, which I have read. It was mid. The Bone Hunters, Reaper's Gale, Crackpot Trail. Everyone loves that. Return of the Crimson Guard, which is what I'm supposed to read next to that, but I've been avoiding it. Toll the Hounds, Stone Wielder, Goats of Glory.
That's a short story, which honestly is it's kind of fun, but it's completely irrelevant. It has none of the characters in it. It has no connection to kind of anything. And I think it's only placed where it is because there's a brief mention in the short story about the soldiers that are the characters have just come from a particular battle. And that puts it in the chronology there. But
interesting. Okay, so Goats of Glory, which is just a phenomenal name.
It's super fun. I've got it in. It's in the Book of Sword. No.
Sword and Dark Magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, edited by Jonathan Strahan and Lou Anders.
Yeah,
it looks like that's the only way to get it potentially.
Yes, it is, and that's a pretty old book. I think it was published in the 90s, so you're probably going to have to look for it used if you want it. But it's also got short stories by Glenn Cook. I think Scott Lynch has got one in there. Oh, no, Scott Lynch has got one in the Book of Swords. It's got a Michael Moorcock short story. It's like some big names are in there with short stories. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to see here. There's a bunch of authors that are listed in here. Looks kind of neat, honestly.
Yeah.
So you got that. Where'd my tab go? There
Go
it is.
to
So you got Dust
Glory.
of Dreams, which I like. Most people hate Dust of Dreams. I love Dust of Dreams.
Dust of Dreams is probably on the bottom of my list.
It's the most epic ending. The ending is absurd of that book, dude.
Yeah, although Toll the Hounds is
Toll the
probably
Hounds is
the one that rocked me the most.
I mean, emotionally, Toll the Hounds is probably the best ending,
Yeah.
right? But man, Dust of Dreams, as far as fireballs and lasers, yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, but like to get there, there's a lot of slow, dry.
The snake, yeah.
The snake is hard.
I like the snake.
I don't think it's badly written or anything. I just like. I found it very difficult to read for that long.
I'm sure I'm wrong, but I think my gut reaction is that I like Dust of Dreams more than the Crippled God, but I might be wrong about that. I'd have to.
Okay,
likely.
Controversial take.
Yeah.
Night Dairy.
Orb, Scepter, Throne, the Crippled God, Blood and Bone, Assail, and then of course you have Forge of Darkness, Fall of Light, and then Walk in Shadow. Walk in Shadow is not out. I don't know when it'll be done at this point. I think it's also. I think I heard someone say that it was going to turn into the to a fourth book, but maybe that was wrong. Also, wait, Witness Trilogy's not on here at all.
The Witness Trilogy's not on there because I think if you're looking at the Ultimate Order, I think that discussion happened before the Witness Trilogy.
Yeah, it says right here, Path to Ascendancy.
Started existing.
Yeah, Path of Ascendancy is also not included, which is honestly that's the Esselmon I want to read the most.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. I have all of them on my shelf already. In such a remarkably messy collection of sizes and formats. But I wanted to have all of them, and I'll get to them.
Yeah, I've returned the Crimson Guard down there, and I've been meaning to read it for so long. But and I will say this: so Asa mentioned that they think it's great, and I've had two other people in my Discord say they love it, but I've had so many people tell me that it's awful, and I'm like, it's
a controversial book. A lot of people have said they love it. A lot of people are not so hot on it. Yeah.
My biggest thing is that it's massive,
it's pretty chunky. Yes.
Yeah, it's a chunky. I've heard there's a zillion POVs, and like it's involved. Like Asa is saying here, brain power.
Yeah.
I'll read it.
Yeah. DK Moon. I can totally understand that. There is one particular storyline in Toll the Hounds where I was just like every time.
Commander?
Yeah.
Is that his name? Yeah.
And every time it came back to them, I was like, can I just punch all of them and we move on?
I think the Mander's more insufferable than the snake. How about that?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm also saying 3 years removed from it, so I don't really.
At least you understand what's going on with Demander and his buddies. Like,
all right, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah,
the whole thing with the snake. It reminded me a lot of, strangely, not John Steinbeck. Damn it! Who wrote The Sound and the Fury?
Oh, Faulkner.
Yeah, William Faulkner. I was blanking completely. It reminded me about of William Faulkner.
That's George R. R. Martin's boy.
Strangely, yeah. Like the beginning of The Sound and the Fury is one of the most amazing descriptions, first-person descriptions of a person with a totally different perspective on the world that I've ever read. And it's a autistic, maybe brain damaged, maybe I don't know what, but something going on with their brain kid describing watching golf. And they're just describing what they see. They don't know what golf is, right? They don't understand what's happening. But they're just describing what they see. And for like 10 pages, you're like, I have no idea what's going on. What are you doing? This book is so weird. And then you figure it out. Yeah. I knew that Ida, of all people, would be a Demander fan. Ida always has hot takes.
Hey. There are people who like it, though. I mean, with a series that has been read so much, you're always going to find someone with a varying opinion.
No, but if you love Demander, you are objectively wrong. like Dementor is. So he's insufferable. No, you are entirely entitled to your opinion, Ida. You probably hate Krupp as well, so that's fine. I
Krupp?
suppose.
You mean the best character in Gardens of the Moon?
I know, right?
It's not even
Of
close.
course. Yeah, see, she loves Silchus Ruin as well, and I was like, Silchus Ruin was just like almost a non-character for me. I just found him so boring.
Really? I liked him.
Yeah, I don't know, but again, I really think that a lot of that is stuff I will have an extremely different experience with coming through the second time.
Yeah.
I love the Tai Sandi in general. I like the Tai Sandi.
The Tistiandi?
I try and say it the way Erickson says
I
it.
don't know. I Tist Andy is what I've always said, but I don't know. The audiobook guy apparently mispronounces everything. So
Oh god, I think I've not done the audiobooks, but I remember someone saying like the first 4 or 5 are done by a guy who pronounces everything wrong, and also kind of has an annoying voice, and then somebody else took over. I don't remember.
Ralph Lister's great. They're crazy. Ralph Lister's great.
Okay.
It gets taken over by the same guy did Loch Lamora. Michael Page. Michael Page is the GOAT. His voice is like Rulad and stuff. Oh, dude. Is it Rulad?
I didn't really do audiobooks. I did the entire War for the Rose Throne on audio for some reason. And it was awesome. It was awesome. Like the guy who did it, whose name I forget right now. Such a great job. And the character, because it's a first person book, the character just has his voice in my head now, like
first person narration.
Inseparable.
Yeah, first person narration can really help. Obviously, everyone talks about Dresden, so that's a good example. But I also found many like literary fiction that's first person also to be really nice in audio. But with Malazan, I did books 4 through 10 as immersion reads, and I did that because sometimes I just wanted to hear Erickson's stuff out loud. It just sounds good when you hear it. Okay. And then I also found that I was retaining stuff a lot better when I was doing it. It was like very, I had my noise canceling earphones on and I would just like be in the world. It was very immersive. So I guess that's why they call it immersion reading.
Let's clap for Evie. Woo, Evie. Excellent. Glad to see you're getting your mojo
or
back.
Like Gorman ass, am I right?
I don't know. Are you right? I haven't read it. I have Titus Grown on my shelf and want to read it.
It's really well written. I've read like 100 pages of it, I think. Something like that. I put it down.
Okay.
It has like I don't know. There's a vibe about Gorman Gas that I don't normally go for, so I'm going to have to be in a very specific mood to read it. But the writing is pretty incredible.
The very gothic weirdness of it, or
yeah, just like I don't know if I want to say absurdist because I don't think that's really it, but it's like that Alice in Wonderland kind of feel, I guess, like that vibe.
Okay,
I don't really like that. I'm not a big fan of it.
Okay.
Media Freak Review says I started Cormac McCarthy because of you. Well, depending on your experience, you're welcome. I only have 3 more books to go from him, and then I'm done.
I think what he means to say is he's on the way to your house right now with a baseball bat.
Oh man, yikes! You're gonna flip a coin, see if I live. Yikes!
Yeah, Cormac McCarthy is one I haven't. I've thought I've listened to a lot of people, including you, talk about him, and I keep thinking, when I am in general in a better state of mind, then I will probably grab that.
Yeah,
grab something from him. Yeah.
He's fairly heavy, from now having read almost all of his stuff, and I'm curious to see what he did, before he died. I've heard varying things. I know some people think it's his worst books, like Bookish, my friend. He thinks the last 2 books from McCarthy were just not good. Some people say it's his best work. Some people say it's actually the cipher for all. There's always a bazillion takes when someone's that popular, but
sure.
He's very good at changing styles and approaches to stories, but he does have a lot of like similar, like anybody. Like I think Murakami, now I'm on his 3rd book, like very similar in all of his books, which It's fine. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. The one thing about McCarthy that you can tell is that he really struggled with answering certain questions. I think when he did his Oprah interview, she's like, "Do you believe in God?" And he's like, "It depends on the day." And I feel like his books also reflect that very much, because one person can read a Cormac book and say, well, like, there's a lot of belief at the core of the story. And then like read another one from him and it's like, oh, this is completely agnostic. And
This is nihilistic.
yeah, very nihilistic, you know.
Yeah.
Destruction and depravity is definitely in every one of his books almost, I think. A lot of self-destruction. What a beautiful cat.
Yeah, she she hates being held up like that. I'm sorry. Sorry, Fitz. It's okay. Go back to your corner. She always sits on the corner of my desk.
She's very cute.
She's sweet. Yeah, she's very sweet. I've gotten so used to her now that every other cat to me seems like they're stunted. Like she's huge. She's like twice as big as many cats.
She's Maine Coon. I have a Maine Coon.
She's Maine Coon.
Yeah.
I was out on the street yesterday walking, and I saw a cat just sort of wandering around on the sidewalk, and I thought, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, I get this every time I go to my mom's house.
The head was like this big, and Fitz's head is like this big.
How much does Fitz weigh?
5-ish kilos.
What's that in freedom units?
5 kg in libs. 11.
11?
Yeah.
Okay. So my guy at one point,
she's a she, first of all, so smaller, and she's only 2 years old. So she's going to keep growing for another 2 years. Yeah, she could get up to 8 kilograms.
My
females.
My Maine Coon, he's part Maine Coon. At one point weighed like 27 pounds at the vet.
Oh my God.
And they were like, you gotta quit feeding him. I'm like, he just eats, like he just won't stop eating. And now he's like 19, I think. But he's so big.
I want her to stay slim. I mean, she's gonna be big anyway.
Is she real long, like a hot dog? Like
she's
corgi?
Pretty long, yeah.
Yeah. I always say they look like corgis because like their bellies kind of like they have those little short stubby legs. Yeah, they're so funny. Come here, Fritz. Come here. She's oh yeah. Yep.
Pretty long.
Little hot dog.
Yeah.
She's so cute.
She loves it. She loves it. Yeah. No, and like especially the ears. Like she's purebred Maine Coon. She's got huge ears with the black tufts on top.
Yeah.
And every time I see another cat, it looks like someone's actually trimmed their ears. To me, it takes me a minute to remember that's actually how cats look. Like Maine Coons are the ones that are freaks.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
They're also very much social. They're a little more social than a lot of tabby cats and stuff like that. They're just different. Like they're very different attitude wise. And I have she
likes getting wet, for example.
So Denver used to sit on the side of the tub when my wife would take a bath, and his tail would fall into the tub when he would fall asleep, and then he'd wake up and flip his tail, and then it'd shoot water, and then he'd be like, ah! And he'd just like fall in. he was awesome.
Fitz's favorite way to drink water is she'll go over to her water bowl and she'll dunk her paw in it. Put her paw in it, and then lick her paw.
That's what Denver does.
Dunk her paw and then lick her paw.
What is that?
I don't know.
He does that. He goes,
yeah. She'll drink normally as well, but mostly she likes to dunk her paw and then leave little wet paw prints all over the house.
See, I always thought it was because maybe he couldn't see, like he wasn't sure what was in the bowl or something.
She does it like if I've just filled the bowl and it's like mostly full, she'll drink normally. And when it goes down a bit, I think she doesn't like her whiskers hitting the edge of the bowl or something.
I think you're right.
And she'll dunk her paw, and then
I actually end up getting elevated feeding bowls for Denver because he has a drooling problem. Like he has something wrong with his saliva gland, so he just drools when he eats. Like it's really bad.
Oh, okay.
And so they said to help, you get elevated bowls, and they kind of eat with their chin up, and it actually helps them swallow as well because he has like this really bad cough. Yeah, I think he has asthma. I think there's like a lot wrong with him. He also had feline herpes when he was young.
I think the asthma thing may be a Maine Coon, a common Maine Coon thing because Fitz has a schnurf. I call it a schnurf problem. Like she makes noises with her nose.
Mm-hmm.
you know, which I've
Yeah.
never noticed any other cat doing. Like sometimes she'll just go like
Yeah.
weird snorting kind of
Denver's
noises. Like what?
Maine
What are you
Coons are
doing?
so fascinating, dude.
They're cool cats.
I
They're cool
love
cats.
it.
Yeah.
Ah,
She's an excellent cat to have for a guy like me who lives by himself because like you said, they're very social. Like she has to be in the room where I am, no matter where that is. Good evening, Ben. Just wanted to say
bang is
hi.
on.
Finishing up Grace of Kings. Yeah, Dandelion Dynasty is so on my list.
All the Storms is a
But
banger.
I like everything I've heard from everybody. Like everybody who knows it agrees I will love it.
I think so. I could see you liking it. I think the end of Wall of Storms is like literally one of the best endings I've ever read.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
but that's the peak. You know, it's kind of like Bone Hunters. Like Bone Hunters is the best of Malazan, in my opinion. And it's always
Yeah.
like, well, what about the last one? I say, oh, they're good, but like hard to
But it
catch
does peak
lightning in a
early.
bottle.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's the same as Sun Eater. Like if I had
That's
to pick
true.
one, I'd say Demon in White or Howling Dark, probably Howling Dark.
Yeah.
And it's all downhill from there, but it's a very slow incline. You know, it's not like it's like falling off a cliff or anything.
Yeah, it
It's
didn't just crash. It's just
No.
like, oh well, I don't enjoy this as much.
Like-
maybe.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope so.
I mean, the way people talk, like whenever I say to someone, I think Dust of Dreams is the worst of the Malazan Book of the Fallen. They're like, oh, it's bad. I'm like, no, it's fucking awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you just said it's the worst. I'm like, yeah, it's the worst in a really, really amazing series, and the other ones are just better. All right.
This has been along the problem with the Song of Ice and Fire as well, is that, you know, obviously when a come down book from Storm of Swords, Feast for Crows got lambasted as a bad book, when in reality, most people probably enjoyed it, but comparatively, you know, people don't like it as much.
It's not as good as Storm of Swords. Yeah.
Nothing is. For me personally, nothing is. I mean, that's like,
No, I mean, A Song of Ice and Fire is certainly in my top 10. I forget where I put it when I made that video. For me, number one's Malazan, like no question. And I have a really hard time giving up Lord of the Rings. Like it was number one for like almost my entire life. And then I read Malazan and I was like, oh Jesus, Professor Tolkien, we need to talk. Yeah. So I think I said Malazan, Lord of the Rings, Realm of the Earthlings,
Nice.
Song of Ice and Fire. So
Nice.
I think that was my top four in that video. I don't know. I have to go back and look.
Yeah.
But
I think Lord of the Rings is one of those ones that I wouldn't put in my top 10 at this point, because I just have to, you know, I have to level with myself, and I don't enjoy the entire experience every time. You know, there's things I do love. The one thing I appreciate about Lord of the Rings more so than maybe any other series is that it changes every time I read it, and what parts actually click with me. Like I have always hated the Council of Elrond. That's like my hottest take in the world. Every time I get the Council of Elrond, I'm like, fuck, like I don't want to read this shit. And last time I read it, not only did I love the Council of Elrond, Fellowship was my favorite of the three, and that's never happened. It's never been the case before.
Fellowship is probably. I'm in the middle of rereading it right now. I read Fellowship end of last year, and I read Two Towers a month or two ago. And Fellowship's a really good book.
I love, yeah,
like no question.
Yeah, now if you ask me what my favorite one is, it's actually never was that before, but after the last reread, that was kind of it. And I actually prefer The Hobbit to the Lord of the Rings. I love The Hobbit.
I mean, I love The Hobbit. I don't know if I'd say I prefer it to Lord of the Rings.
You probably shouldn't. It's a child's story. I just happen to really love the pacing.
No, but it's. I mean, it's kind of like Warner Brothers cartoons. You know, technically made for children, but there is more than enough there that adults can enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, that children also wouldn't even get.
Well, yeah, and good children's books should not be inaccessible for adults, right? Like adults should be able to read children's books and enjoy them. I think that's like one of the keys to writing a really good children's book, in fact, is like not talking down to the children, which if you're not doing that, then most likely adults won't feel patronized whenever they read your stuff.
I read the Harry Potter books in my 30s.
Did you like them?
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed them. I mean, they're yeah, they don't get on my top 10 list, but I enjoyed them. You know,
I uh,
I thought they were a lot of fun.
I read up to Goblet of Fire, DNF, and then never read the rest of them. I think I saw the first two movies, and I did like the first two movies, just like I liked the first two books whenever I was younger. And then I watched like part one of Deathly Hallows movie because I went on a date with this girl that worked at a theater, and I was like, well, whatever, I'll watch whatever you can get us into for free because I was broke. And so we watched it. I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, I don't even know half these people. But I went to Harry Potter World, 2 months ago or so, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read some Harry Potter. And I was on the plane, and I had got the book from the library. And I read like the first 100 pages of Sorcerer's Stone, and I was like, I don't like this. I was like, I really don't like this.
Okay.
And I think for me, I'm just gonna have to say it doesn't work.
You've been reading too much dark, depressing, horrific, violent stuff.
I don't like the tone of it. I don't know what that says about me, but I don't like the tone of Harry Potter.
It's very twee.
Yeah,
which is a very British word.
Mm.
Which basically to me the word means British. Like it's just
well, David Mitchell's very British.
They're very British books.
Yeah,
you know?
I actually think Remains of the Day is very British because he's
yeah,
British Japanese. I think that is very British as well. So it's not like I don't like all British. You know what I mean? Like there's plenty of stuff I do, but there's just something about the way Harry Potter's written. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I enjoyed them, and they didn't become part of my personality like they did for many people. But many people also read them like 20 years younger than I did, so it's understandable. And I would never bother reading them again. I think
Shad says it's because it's not dark. That is ridiculous. There is plenty of stuff I like that isn't dark. I like
Jimmy Dark Nuts.
There's plenty of stuff I like that isn't dark. So that's not it. I just don't like J.K. Rowling's writing. That's all.
Which is totally fair.
I think one of the reasons why people do identify with Harry Potter, and I know someone had this experience, is like it was very like what's the word I'm looking for? It was like very much not supposed to be read when it came out because like I lived in a very conservative, like Christian community, small town community, and I remember they did a whole week of like don't let your kid, you know what I mean? And I think some kids it was an opportunity to go against indoctrination of like whatever they've been put into and to see the world from a different lens and find magic in it. And we're talking about kids, you know, so like I think that actually ignited a lot of people's imagination and opened their eyes to things. So I think that that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of people who take it so personally. But then again, there's also just nostalgia. Nostalgia is so strong. I mean,
and it's also like for me, Lord of the Rings was pretty much the first fantasy I read. I think I might have read some Narnia before that, but it didn't leave as much of an impression as Lord of the Rings.
I have no Narnia.
And yeah, I mean it's Christian allegory.
Yeah.
Which is the part of it I don't like at all. It's childhood wonder, which is pretty cool. You know, I read it when I was a kid and I liked it. But Lord of the Rings was the first where I think it really became part of my personality. Like it helped define who I am.
Were you a hippie?
And, I probably got confused with hippies a lot because I was an artist.
Okay.
Like in high school, I was the weird kid who won art competitions and had gallery showings. Like I was kind of an art prodigy, painting prodigy when I was a teenager. That's cool. Yeah, it was just something I did. And apparently I did it pretty well because I won competitions and got my stuff in exhibitions when I was in high school. But I was weird, I think, as a kid because I never really identified with any of those groups. I was definitely not a jock. I had friends who were emo goths, but I totally wasn't. I wasn't a hippie. I didn't do any drugs until I was in my 20s. Late in my 20s. Yeah, I
was just curious because I know that like the hippie community loved Tolkien. Like that's who kind of.
But that was before me.
Yeah,
I'm
that's fair.
not that old. Right?
Well, hey.
My parents' generation, those hippies loved Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and that's kind of what rescued it in many ways.
Oh yeah, that's what made it big back then. I mean, it became huge in the 60s and 70s. But I didn't have a strict or even slightly religious upbringing. My mother was into astrology, yoga, and Stephen King. Right. So I didn't have any limitations. Like there was a shelf right outside my bedroom that had Salem's Lot on it. And I picked it up when I was a kid. And my mom was like, yeah, maybe you read that later.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but it's just maybe a bit too grown up for you. So
yeah, I read it at like 10 and it gave me nightmares. And my parents were like, this
that explains a lot.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I mean, my first movie I remember is Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. That's the first movie I remember.
Oh, wow.
Not Lion King, not Bambi, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Damn.
Isn't that crazy?
Okay.
And look, I turned out fine.
And you grow up to like Cormac McCarthy so much.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Oh, me and Mac Daddy.
Totally makes sense.
2 peas in a pod.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, no, I'm way too old for the Harry Potter hype, and I'm too young for the Lord of the Rings hippie hype.
Yeah, you missed the boat, bro.
Yeah, I was just born at the wrong time.
I mean, 80s and high school in the 80s is probably pretty sweet, though.
There's just so much bad music, though. Oh my God. I love music. I'm really into music, right? And the 80s was just suffering. All I did in the 80s was listen to music from the 60s and 70s. Like Duran Duran, Flock of Seagulls, all that garbage. Like everybody I knew was listening to that. And I just wanted to kill them. And then I found punk, and I was like, okay, so somebody's making music with some power in it. It's not all candy and bad haircuts. Then I was like, okay, that punk and rap, and then I was like, okay, I get there are some
good
music things going on, but oh my God, mainstream music in the 80s, it was a disaster. Or it was really, really depressing garbage like the Smiths. You know, like I said, I had a number of emo goth friends, and I was like, it's actually good music, but it's just so depressing. Why do you want to listen to it? I was listening to Jethro Tull and Rolling Stones and, old stuff.
I liked Ozzy from the 80s is pretty solid still.
True. I've never been into metal.
I love Ozzy.
Never been into metal. Jerome, I am not surprised that you love the Smiths. More power to you.
Yeah, you got Glenn Cook, Michael Moorcock, you got Julian May. I mean, come on. What else do you need?
Yeah, no, the writing was good. Like it was a good time to be into fantasy and science fiction for sure. Because a lot of those people were still alive. It's just a pity I moved to Australia, so I couldn't really go to cons and meet them. Chadia's here. Good evening, Chadia.
You know what they say, never meet your heroes.
Yeah, true. I met Brian Sterling.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I was at a convention, totally different convention. It was actually a technology convention when I was in university. And I went outside to have a smoke. And there was a guy standing there and he said, hey, do you have a smoke? And I looked over and I said, you're fucking Bruce Sterling. And he said, I am not fucking Bruce Sterling. I am Bruce Sterling. And I went over and gave him a smoke, and we got along really well. And he was a speaker at the convention. He actually snuck me into the speaker's dinner. And I was super excited telling him about this new thing I was really into, the web. That I was teaching myself HTML. And I mean, this is in 93, I think. And, I'm just like going on like you do when you're 22. Oh my God, the web and HTML, and I'm just learning all this stuff, and it's so exciting. It's the future. And he said, do you know who you're sitting across the table from? I was like, I looked, I was like, some old guy? And he said, that is Tim Berners-Lee. And I stood up and leaned over the table and put out my hand, and I said, Mr. Berners-Lee, I'd like to thank you for the web. And he looked
That
at me
is
totally
that's a
surprised
fantastic story.
and shook my hand and
That's a
laughed.
great story.
And then I sat down again and was very embarrassed. Yeah. But I did get to shake the hand of the guy who invented the web, which was cool.
That's really awesome. Not many people probably have said that.
No.
Maybe after. Maybe once they were like, this thing makes money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and the guys who are into it for the money, they don't even know who Tim Berners-Lee is.
But Beltube said, "You met Al Gore?" Yeah, didn't you know Al Gore invented the internet?
Yes. Yes, I've heard that. No, I'm afraid I never met Al Gore. Green Day and Oasis. That's a mix. Wow. I listen to Green Day quite a lot. Look who it is.
Oh shit! Hey Jimmy, how's it going?
Some
Some
Okie dude.
Okie dude. Where's
Hey,
the
doing,
Okie
Britton?
dude? Like, if you're just some Okie dude, is there a the Okie dude out there?
I don't know. I just thought it was a funny name when I made it up.
One of my favorite channels is an Okie channel.
Oh, really?
He does documentaries. Here, let me see if I can find who it is. He's the GOAT. I love this guy.
Colton went through a big Smiths phase a couple of years ago. You're like a few decades late, Colton. The Smiths was the cool thing to be into if you were semi-suicidal in the 80s.
What about now? What do I listen to now if I'm that?
I have a hard time keeping up with current music, to be honest.
Well, that's not
no. I lost a friend. I mean, I didn't lose him. I know where he is, but we just don't see each other very often anymore.
Oh my God.
He back in university, Doug was the guy I knew who knew the most about music. And we used to spend hours stoned and drunk sitting on his floor putting albums on. He had a really good sound system and he had huge shelves with 1 million albums. And he used to just go, "Oh, I think you'll like this." And he'd play me a couple of songs. He's like, "You like that? Then you'll like this." And we just do that for hours. And I always knew so much more about music than I ever would have otherwise. And I don't have a Doug anymore.
That's tough.
And I try and avoid listening to music that's too depressing.
I actually agree with that because music is, to me, the most emotionally affecting art.
Yes.
And it can has the power to like change my day, and I don't like that. I'm not a big fan of that. I know that sounds weird, but like I only listen to music at the gym now. I don't listen to music outside, unless if it's Book of Mormon. I listen to that all the time, but that's just because it's become a part of my daily life.
It's become your personality.
Yes, just a bit.
Yeah, no, I have recommendations for the opposite. Like if you're not feeling that good and you want something that's more uplifting. For example, Dressy Bessie. Dressy Bessie is my favorite mood enhancer.
I have a song that I listen to at the gym, and it's fantastic. And it's from the Conan O'Brien travel show. He went to the and he collabed with rappers from there, and they made a song, and he did the bridge. It's extraordinarily catchy.
Okay. All of that sounds bizarre to me.
It's called "Welcome to the Party," featuring Conan O'Brien from Eda Music, and Conan's bridge at the end of the song is literally, "I'm staring at the forge. There's salmon in the sea. My baby says she's bored. She ain't in love with me." That's it. That's this whole part of the song, but it is fantastic. He kills it. Highly recommend. I'm a huge Conan.
Okay. Daniel feels better when he listens to depressing music. That's fine. I don't. I used to listen to darker things and wallow, but it never really made me feel better. Yeah. What do I listen to now?
I've been listening to a lot of Kendrick recently. Kendrick Lamar.
Because of the controversy.
Well, yeah, but also I've like rediscovered his music. I'm like, God damn. I listen to Mr. Morales and the Big Steppers. I'm like, there's some good shit on there.
I'll go ahead and say, okay, Boomer, for you. I didn't even know who Kendrick was until somebody mentioned a controversy that I'd never heard of.
I mean, I never took you for a hip hop fan, so.
No, but old school rap, for sure.
Oh, it's
Kendall's
like
in
Public
kicks.
Public
I love
Enemy.
it.
Really? After
I
Meet the Grams,
Good to see you,
he
Darko.
destroyed him. Though Family Matters actually slaps a little bit. Like,
Family
I
Matters.
don't like
Family Matters slaps. When he said your back's up against the curb, that's the greatest short joke I've ever heard. And it's so quick. It's like your back's up against the curb, and I'm like, wait, what?
There you go, Darko. My boy Darko's got me. I have actually talked about Jay-Z.
I don't know what's going to happen with Jay-Z. He's pretty close to old Diddy, and Diddy's having a rough year. I'm very curious.
I haven't been keeping up on the goss on Jay-Z. I think when I was talking about Jay-Z, I was actually talking about the Gray album. Do you know what the Gray album is?
The Gray, I know the Black album.
DJ Danger Mouse in the 90s, as a promo, took the white album from the Beatles and the black album from Jay-Z and called it the Gray album and did like a mashup of the two. And it was thoroughly illegal. Jay-Z heard about it and said, damn, that's cool. And Sony heard about it and said, copyright.
As I say, they said, not cool.
Yeah.
Give us our money.
Yeah, so it got really closed down. You can find it on YouTube. Actually, you can't find it because copyright and everything. You can't find it on Spotify or something. But there is a video on YouTube which has the whole Gray album in it, and it's so good. It's so damn good. It like improves both the white album and the black album. The two of them together it's really, really good.
That's pretty
It's
cool.
basically the vocals from Jay-Z and music samples from the Beatles.
Very cool.
Yeah. Really, really good.
I remember when I don't remember because I was like 3 when this was happening, but I have heard when Jay-Z and Nas went at it back in the early 2000s. Some pretty good songs there.
Ether's an all-timer.
Indeed. Though I think Hit 'Em Up is, and don't get me wrong, I love Biggie. Like Ready to Die is one of the greatest rap albums ever made. But like Tupac freaking destroyed him in Hit 'Em Up.
Here's my hot take. I think Hit 'Em Up's kind of a shitty song.
Yeah.
Like
No,
musically,
like
I
that
don't like
first
it.
verse. That first verse though is freaking.
Oh, I
good.
mean,
And then he gets all of his like other homies with him, and you're like, dude, like, come on. But it's a great song.
I'm not a fan of it musically. I mean, obviously the lyrics are extremely striking, but I'm not a huge fan of it.
I haven't listened to any rap in a long time.
I listen to Southside Drill from Chicago that no one likes and no one listens to. So,
All right.
yeah, I like very aggressive music. I only listen to music when I work out. So I just need something to make me go to a dark place.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Make you go to a dark place. You have to be in a dark place to work out?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The things that go through my head when I'm having to do physical activity, they're not pleasant at all.
Okay. I
Yeah.
used to go to the gym regularly, lift and stuff, and I always took really powerful but upbeat music with me.
Always
Just to make me feel powerful and energetic and whatever.
I always like, more like I listen to a lot of metal when I used to work out. Like I listen to like Master of Puppets. Like thrash metal, like get you all pumped up, like
Aggro music.
aggressive music, yes.
Okay. You'd probably
Or
be
Mad
bored.
Villainy from
Probably be super bored by most of what I listen to these days. But I'm old. I'm allowed to listen to slow, boring music now. I think that's acceptable. What are you reading at the moment, Britton?
Well, I'm still on Jonathan Strange, Mr. Norrell, but that's probably going to take a while. So
I was going to say, you will be for a while. It's chunky.
That thing's huge.
And I'm also reading The Legend of Blackjack, which I'm hoping to finish today. I'm-
okay.
I'm liking it a lot.
All right.
Is that about pirates? What's it
There are
about?
pirates in it. Yeah,
It's a portal fantasy, isn't it?
it
It's
is.
one of those indie portal fantasies. It was going around quite a lot last year, I think.
There's like references to Alice in Wonderland and pirates.
I just said I didn't
and-
like Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, you
Hop,
did?
hop.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, too bad. But I like it though. It's fun. It's fun. No, I mean that might scare some people off.
Is that a big book? It looked big.
No, it's only
thin.
like 400 something pages.
No,
Or-
it's
that's
not
not
that
very
bad.
long
Not
to
that
me.
bad.
No, that's not that
But
bad.
some
Not
of
that
them are like some of the pages on here are kind of dog-eared for some reason. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know why. That's how I
I
got
get-
it on Amazon.
I get stuff from Amazon. Tori very sweetly sent me this, which I'm reading right now.
Also,
And
yes, Chadia.
on the back, the packaging from Amazon was actually glued to it and won't really come off. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't worry too much about the quality of paperbacks, to be honest.
Amazon doesn't care at all. They gave me like a little slip thing yesterday, and it was raining, so like there's watermarks all over my book, and I'm like, whatever, it's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah, I'm happy if they actually hand it to me these days.
yeah.
Like the worst one I had was a book about this big that they crammed into my letterbox.
Mm,
But I have like a vertical letterbox, so it has a slit at the top. And getting a book like this into it, the way you do it is you bend it in the middle. And it took me like 5 minutes to even get it out of my letterbox, and then the book was basically destroyed.
yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Beltube said the physical brand new book I just got from Amazon was cheaper than the Kindle version, including shipping. And this is my problem. So I've been legitimately trying to buy less physical books because, like, one, I just don't have room, and two, I feel like I'm almost embarrassed by how many books I have at this point.
Yeah.
So
I know
I've
the
been wanting to do the Kindle version, but with no exception, the last like 10 times, they've all been more expensive digitally than physically. And I'm like, I'm just not doing it. Like, I'm not paying you $12 for an ebook. You can kick rocks. Like, I'm not doing it. So I use the Libby app and I try to get the ebook from Libby. Like, that's the best thing for me to do. But
Yeah.
not all the time. They don't always have it, you know? So
I discovered Libby and was really, really excited for about 5 seconds.
why?
Remembered I live in Germany and German libraries don't have
Word.
many books in English.
Yeah. So what I did, I signed up for Libby during COVID, and a bunch of libraries around here, but also around America, were doing digital ones because you couldn't go to the library. So they were letting you sign up without going in for a library card. So I have a pretty good pull. I find most of what I want. I mean, if it's contemporary fiction, yes, 100% of the time I can get it. But fantasy, it's a bit of a hit or miss, you know.
Yeah. Blackjack is a standalone. Maybe prequel coming out soon. Okay.
But for people who are asking, yes, I am enjoying Jonathan Strange, Mr. Norrell. I've just been, it's been a slow reading month for me because there's just been a bunch of crap going on.
I read that like 15 years ago.
What do you think,
And-
Matt?
I remember it feeling very slow.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I remember liking it, like overall impression, liking it, but it was a very slow and thoughtful book. And slow and thoughtful is much more my thing now than it was 15, 20 years ago. So I would probably like it more on a reread than I did back then. There were bits where I almost put it down. I didn't DNF it, but there were bits where I was like, actually, I just kind of have to admit I'm a little bored. And like Jimmy Nuts, who's yawning at us.
Sorry, pre-workout crash. I'm coming down hard.
Post-workout.
But whatever. Well, my pre-workout's wearing off, so I took pre-workout.
Aha.
take-
Okay.
And now it's time for the afternoon coffee.
So it's your post pre-workout crash.
Yes, you got it. 100%.
Guy Gabriel Kay's Children of Earth and Sky. That's not a K I've heard a lot of people talking about. I don't have any feeling of knowing anything about it. I
just finished out 17. It was fantastic.
I see. I watched I watched BookTuber, whose name I'm blanking on, Jake Bishop. And he had a video last year at some point where he was like, if you wanna start with K, here's some recommendations. And I read Fiannavar also 20 years ago. And I read Tigana maybe 10 years ago. And I don't remember either of them too much. But from what Jake said, I am looking forward to reading Sarantine Mosaic, or the 2 Sarantine books. Yeah. iPad. Yeah. I can't read on an iPad. I read on an iPad for a little while until light shining in my face annoyed me, and that's when I got my first Kindle, like a long time ago.
I just love the iBook app, like the Books app on Apple products. Like the interface is really nice. Like being able to like the transition pages and stuff. I love all that. I haven't used it in many years.
The interface on almost everything Apple is better than the interface on almost everything else.
That's fact. Their promotional websites are the best thing on the web, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like when they release a new product and they have a launch page, it's as good as it gets. Yeah.
I've been looking at their website. I used to design a lot of e-commerce sites, and Apple was like the top for me. I was like, if we can ever design anything that's even close to as good as the Apple website, I can then die happy. Yeah, they know design. I had a job offer from Microsoft a long time ago. I did a collaborative project with them, with my company and Microsoft. Went over to Microsoft headquarters, worked in their offices for a few weeks, and my contact at Microsoft pulled me aside at some point, and he was like, "Hey, we've got this big move towards design at Microsoft, and we need designers, and we like your work, and would you consider moving to Seattle?" And I said, if you can guarantee me that I would not bang my head bloody on the wall that is your developer culture, and that actually anyone would listen to me and react to my ideas as if design was actually important, if you can guarantee me that, I will think about it. And he said, yeah, I'm not sure I can.
Yeah, they also chew people up and spit them out. People with 20 years experience that have only worked at Microsoft, and they just lay them off with no consideration for any kind of loyalty and stuff. I don't really have any aspirations to work at like large companies. I mean, I am interested as being on the website of like Apple, but like there's no way. Plus, I'm not doing any algorithm interviews. I refuse to do it. So that limits my options when it comes to the big companies.
It was so like I've worked at a lot of different places. I was freelance for 13 years, so I was bouncing from gig to gig for a long time, and I've just worked at a lot of different companies, and I've never worked anywhere where you walk in and it is so clear that the main thing the company's interested in is programming. The only thing the company's interested in is programming. Never seen anything like that, like I saw at Microsoft. Like I walked in there and I was like, oh my God, you don't have any designers here, do you? Like, design must sit somewhere totally different on your campus, because where I am is nerd code writer central.
That's me.
Oh my God. Wait just a sec. Someone lovely wants to join us and is not finding the link. So I'll just...
what's going on Thursday, Ida?
I don't know.
That's
I was also wondering.
Thursday.
You have a surprise chatting with Nuts, Jimmy?
No, I don't think so. Wait. Thursday. Am I on Tori's? Am I on Tori's channel Thursday?
Thursday, Ina?
Yeah, I think I'm on Tori's channel on Thursday. Maybe that's what they're doing. Literary history?
Literary history. That does not make anything clearer, Ida.
All right, obviously something's coming out. Something's happening. Oh, Song of the Mystery.
Welcome,
look.
Tori.
It's Tori.
Speak of. No, you're not on my channel on Thursday, Jimmy.
Wait, is
enjoying
it
your
the Thursday
book.
after?
I think so.
I keep thinking this is the last week in May, and it's not.
Yeah.
Memorial Day is this weekend, though.
Oh, okay. So
I'm
it's the last book of the Wars, Light, and Shadow comes out Thursday. That's what it is.
Oh, Thursday's
Yeah.
a weird release date, isn't it?
I don't know.
Thursday's
somehow-
my birthday. So
Hey, happy birthday!
Hey, also
I'm
good.
not mad about it.
That works.
Cool.
No, but like, I'm curious how John managed to get like a bunch of like you got like Philip, AP, and freaking Steven Erickson. I didn't know Steven Erickson knew who he was. I'm like,
And
oh, okay.
freaking Steven Erickson.
And freaking Steven Erickson, exactly. I'm like, I haven't even read Malazan. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? He's like a big name in this.
Erickson's very willing to talk to people.
He
He's
super
super
nice.
open. He goes on
You've taken
everyone's
time
channel.
to
He
make
would have
videos about his
been on
series.
even my channel by now if I had the guts to invite him.
Yeah, if someone has put out the effort to read his books and make an attempt at understanding them, I think he's pretty much willing to talk to them. I mean, I don't know that for a guarantee, but it seems that way.
Yeah, the high point of my channel was when he commented on one of my videos. I was like, okay, now I've that's as good as it gets. Like, nothing with my channel will ever be better than that.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy.
Yeah, extremely
Yeah.
nice.
Except
his
for
name, like-
the inevitable day, Matt, when you do have an interview with him on your channel, which I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, it could happen. Maybe towards the end of my current reread. Yeah,
That'd probably be
Maybe-
a lot of fun.
maybe with him and Ice Esselman.
Yeah.
Getting the two of them, because by the time I get to the end of the Book of the Fallen this time, I will have read a number, not all, but a number of Esselman books as well.
Hmm.
Darko, please do keep reading Malazan. If you ever need encouragement, ping me. I will rave about Malazan to you at any time. No problem.
You know, I know all three of you have read Malazan, and I haven't yet. And I was actually talking about this with somebody the other day. But like, one of the things I'm always curious about is like, why do a lot of people not talk about the cool stuff in Malazan? Because I've heard there's
I
a lot
did.
of cool stuff in there. Well, you have, Jimmy.
Say, I
You're one of the chosen people.
I also have.
Okay, I guess you're all the chosen people, but I often, more often than not, I hear like people go like, "Oh man, it's really complicated."
You need
like,
to
"Oh,
go back. You need to go
take
back and look at.
dinosaurs with lasers and sword hands, and you'll probably sell a bunch of people. Like I'm just saying.
There's no dinosaurs with lasers, but there are dinosaurs with sword arms. And you need to go back and look at. He doesn't do videos anymore, but Iskar Jarak.
Oh yeah, I've heard.
He stopped like 2 years ago, but he was the epitome of like, I'm not, Philip Chase, I'm not AP Canavan, I don't have that kind of education, I can't analyze a book in this way, but I'm going to tell you why this is epic as shit. And
I'll go
he
check
was
it out
he was always his catchphrase was lasers and fireballs. When he was talking about Malazan, like.
This
He
guy's
was-
the man.
Iskar is awesome. He was one of the guys that got me really excited about talking about Malazan on BookTube. He was so cool. He still exists. He just doesn't do BookTube videos anymore.
Humongous Robin Hobb fan too.
Also, yep, exactly.
More than dairy?
Cool dude.
I didn't say more than dairy.
Nobody like Derry's
Nobody.
read the entire Realm of the Elderlings over 20 times. I don't think anyone can beat that. Not even
Yeah.
Robin Hobb.
She's got that crown. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I love dairy.
Yes, Darko. Go back and look at Iskar Jarak. I think that's what his channel was called, right? Iskar Jarak, just like the
Yeah,
character
it's
in
hard.
Malazan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, like Whiskey Jack's a pretty cool name, and like Animander Rake.
Iskar Jarak is Whiskey Jack's name, by the way.
Is that a
That's-
spoiler?
It would be a spoiler if you understood how
I'll take
you
that
learn
as a
that,
no.
that's his name.
We'll take it as
But the fact that his name is Iskar Jarak doesn't spoil anything.
When and if we get our first dog, his name will be Whiskey Jack. 100%.
Great dog
Yeah.
name.
Right?
Riley
Very cool
Durfee's
dog
dog in his book is called Beer Mug. It's like one of the best names of all time in fantasy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, can't
Yeah.
be any better than that.
Yeah.
I have only read the first 4 books of Malazan, so I haven't done a ton of content on it yet, simply because I want to read more of it before I get too detailed. But
There's a lot to go over in those first 4 books, though.
oh yeah, I did one. I did I mean, it's not like it's a pretty basic topic, but I went over Felison's character.
Which was an awesome video.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brian says that Robin Hobb actually is Derry. Oh, damn. And in the tradition of the Sunday pub, Ida disagrees with everything I say. Apparently, Iskar Jarak being Whiskey Jack's name is totally a spoiler.
I mean, I don't know the context, so I'm fine.
Which is why it's not a spoiler. But
Malazan is
anyway.
one of those rare series where it's pretty hard to spoil things. Like I remember people telling me, like I got spoiled on a couple of things in my comment section, and I was like so mad, because I hate spoilers. And I got to it, I was like, oh, it didn't matter at all.
It doesn't make any
Because
difference.
Even with the answer, it was really hard to figure out everything about this. Unlike something like One Piece that did get spoiled for me, and it ruined a massive part of the entire story, which sucked. Hi, kids.
This is like, no, don't hold me.
This is like, don't use me for views.
No, Fitz is not. She does like sitting on my lap. She'll do that if I sit still for 5 minutes. She'll come and sit on my lap, but she does not like being picked up. It's not a spoiler. It's only a spoiler if you know how it got to the point that you know that it's not a spoiler.
Yeah, me and Ben still need to get together for the sharp thing.
True.
Literally
Erickson does not get nearly enough credit for his humor.
Literally one of the best things in Malazan
Say it
is
over
a
and
joke.
over. Yeah.
I might even say it's my favorite in the whole series, actually. And it's a stupid joke, and it's so funny. Oh God.
I remember laughing when I reread Gardens of the Moon recently because of a pretty basic scene between Kalam and Fiddler, and I just started cracking up because I was like, I love these guys. These are hilarious.
Yeah, the humor gets better and better too as people come together. Like there's a joke about a mule, and anyone that read the series knows the mule joke, and that is my favorite. Probably my favorite moment in all Malazan, actually.
Nice.
Favorite moment in all of Malazan.
It honestly
The
is. Yeah,
mule.
it reminded me of my grandparents, and I talked about it, I think, in my discussion. And I told the story, and people were like, "It's kind of fucked up," and I was like, "Yeah, I know." It's not. Like, yeah, I know. That's why it's so funny for me. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Best duos. There are so many epic, awesome, hilarious duos in there.
would one say a Motley Crue, possibly, Tori?
Possibly, yeah.
It's not but
There's
can
a
it be a
Motley
Motley
Crue in this
Crue
book.
if it's actually a military unit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Why not?
Well, I thought a Motley Crue would be more like it has to come together, sort of a bunch of different people, sort of coalescing, and
Which is
like,
kind of a military unit,
yeah, but
Also,
yeah, I guess.
like
I
I
mean,
mean, it's a bunch of people who are brought together for this purpose who may
Yeah,
not have
that's true.
ever
That's
come
true, I
into
guess.
contact with each other otherwise.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. That's
and
true.
form,
and I
you
mean,
know-
the Bridge Burners and the Bone Hunters are pretty damn motley,
Right.
and I guess they're definitely a crew. So yeah.
Yep.
Fair
My
enough.
friend, my
definite
friend
Motley
Dee is
Crue.
reading Malazan right now, and she's vlogging about it every day. And I'm like, how are you doing this?
That's a
awesome.
series I could never vlog. I know, like I saw in the comments, somebody asked me about. I'm like, that is nope, because I'm not smart enough to vlog that series and sound intelligent while I'm doing it. So
You don't need to sound intelligent.
Would it be like, oh my god,
Look how successful Jimmy is.
all this thing?
For real.
Yes, D. I
Just
mean,
Literally,
True
my
story.
discussions that I did for the Malazan series, which are still like probably my favorite things I've ever done on my channel.
Yeah.
It's just me not knowing what the hell's going on, but being like, but this part was sick. And then Philip being like, well, actually, thematically, it's all tied together. I
You're
go,
an
"Oh my
inspiration,
God,
Jimmy.
wow."
You're an inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, I part of me wishes I wouldn't have done all spoiler discussions because like it limits who can watch them,
Right.
you know? But
Don't worry,
Oh.
Jimmy. When I read them,
It's
I'll
really
watch.
hard. It's really hard talking about Malazan without spoilers. Like it's not nearly as much
Yeah.
fun as getting into the details. Like when I started the channel, I was reading Malazan or rereading Malazan, and I think I did a Gardens video. I think I did the first 3 books. I did a video for each, but they were non-spoilers. And after that, I was like, I'm tired of trying to talk about these books without being able to talk about these books.
yeah,
And I just
where I was at.
didn't do them anymore. My Fellowship of the Ring live discussion I did with Mike and AP and Philip was exactly what you just described, Jimmy. It was me and Mike going, "This was so cool," and then the two of them like academic analysis, breaking everything down, and we're like,
Boring.
"Yeah, but it was cool."
Is it though?
It was.
Is it though?
It's like reading oh god.
See, I can do whatever. I can say whatever I want about Philip now. He's like what 60,000 subs or some madness. It's punching up. I can do whatever I want. It's great.
That's
I'm
true.
actually hoping to get to Return of Edan next month
Nice.
because
English professor reacts to his
I'm-
lunch.
I've been to Dan. I never want to
read
return.
all of them. What?
I'm just kidding.
Philip's not even here.
Philip's just gonna
Not
like
even
watch
defend
it
himself.
later, and then he's like gonna go in his office and start crying. He's like, "Why is Jimmy bullying me?"
It's more fun when he's here.
It is more
'Cause I
fun.
know
when
it
he's here.
hurts, you know.
Yeah. You can see the pain in his eyes.
No, but I thought Way of Edan slapped. Like I thought it was a good book.
Totally. I need to get to the second and third one.
Same.
But what really slapped is the Bloodstones.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, I'm
heard
gonna
it's
read
pretty good.
Phase.
Y'all need to go read the Bloodstones.
Murphy's
I'm
been
gonna
trying to get me to
Phase
read
this
it.
October.
Yep.
I said, who's this Tory? I don't know who this Tory is.
Mid.
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 Yeah.
Tory mid.
Yep.
That's a series.
The midstones. The midstones.
How long do you think it's going to take you to finish the whole series, Tori? No pressure's on.
Realistically, as a mom, 3 to 4 years, probably tops.
That's not
Tops.
bad.
No, I mean there's three in this series, and then there will be a bridge novella, and then I have another series that's the one I originally started back in college that I'll come back to after I'm done with this one.
Cool.
Be quicker if you didn't keep distracting yourself with other novels.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Tori, I'm actually looking forward to your cowboy necromancer book because you're really good at selling your stuff.
Well, on that one, the elevator pitch kind of just wrote itself, and I love that because it usually doesn't work like that. So I was very excited. But yeah, that one's hopefully coming out this year.
All
Nice.
you really have to say is Necromancer Cowgirl.
Yukon Gold Rush Necromancer. Yep.
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 And that's
Kind of
kind of enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The short
Nice.
story was a lot of dark fun. And yeah, I'm looking
Do you know the
forward to
funny thing about that,
the
Matt? I
rest.
don't know if I told you this already. When I first started that, I kind of challenged myself. I was like, I'm going to write something cozy, and it fell apart very quickly. And it,
Yeah, big time
that's
big
just
time
not
fail on
something
that.
I can do apparently.
Generally if I was I don't write, but if I was aiming to write a book that had cozy in the description, I wouldn't start with necromancy.
See, but that just sounds like a challenge, though.
Cozy necromancer.
Yeah, totally possible.
Oh, here's my zombies.
So far, you have failed to prove that
It's
is
true.
possible. Yeah.
I'm not the right
coffee
person.
to my
No, you're not.
Yeah,
Um,
Andrew Meredith could do it. I'll tell him to add one to his series.
I have not, sadly. I'm really bad with anthologies because it's like flipping a coin. You don't know. I mean, Tori's here. I don't know which ones are going to be good or bad though.
You're not going to offend me, I promise.
I want to read
It's
Fate
true.
though because I like
Britain, my
werewolves.
biggest terror on BookTube so far was that Tori's book would suck.
and it didn't.
It totally didn't. I was.
I mean, I
super-
read a
I don't
little
know
bit
what
of
I was
Fate.
expecting, but I think I set my expectations at like it's going to be.
I mean, you
Good.
kind of have to. Like when your friend
be
comes
alright.
to you and is like, "I wrote a book," like you never. It's true. Like you never know what.
All
you're
you
gonna
can say is either I will never read it, or it's awesome. And luckily, it was actually awesome. I liked it more than I was expecting to, because I think I was just like, as long as it's good,
Mhm.
that's fine, And it was better than that, much better than that. I am impatient for the next book.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I know, but you're also working on your Cowgirl Necromancer bullshit. But no, actually, I'm really excited about Cowgirl Necromancer. That's what it's going to be called, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
Yep.
good.
Yeah, I'm kind of taking a Cowboy Bebop approach with it.
Oh my
Actually,
God.
it sounds like a really
Take my money
bad
right
porn
now.
film
You
or
just
something.
say, just
I'm
take my
kidding,
money.
by the way.
Just here. Let me. Just take my wallet. I'm gonna throw it. I'm gonna throw it through the screen. Just take it. Take it right now.
Sun Eater Philip's name and call him Tor Chase.
I like it.
Adrian Chase. That
I
has a
like
nice
it as
name
well.
to it.
I don't think he's read Sun Eater, so it'd be even more fun. So he wouldn't get it. He would totally not get it.
Philip
That is a
Marlowe,
really
that
cool
kid-
idea, Darko. Dedicate a month this year to booktubers.
Oh,
who
thanks,
are
Darko. That's
authors.
awesome.
And then tier
That
rank
was
them on
great.
their value as humans. based
Yeah.
on
Yes.
That would be funny, actually.
it would be super offensive, but I would enjoy
Oh
it.
yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
find-
Yeah, like
You could do
Philip
different
is,
tier
like,
rankings,
S tier
like
human being.
attractiveness, intelligence.
I've always wanted to do that with my guest.
contribution to
guest on Time with Nuts,
humanity.
but I know that like not everyone's going to enjoy that joke, so it's not in good taste. Like I can't do it, but it'd be funny.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
definitely went back the other day and rewatched part of our Chatting with Nuts episode just to be like, okay, how much of a like nervous Nelly was I on this? Because at the
I think
time
it was fine.
it was like just starting to come back onto BookTube. Oh yeah, it was. I was actually. It was a good chat.
I'll tell you what, John Talking Story. What a guy,
I know, right?
guy, man.
He's a
awesome.
beautiful man. I love that man.
He's
That
awesome.
was awesome. The
Yeah,
That was
do
a
you
really good
together.
episode.
I mean, he's so much fun to listen to. It totally irritated me because I was constantly like, oh, that sounds like another book I really want to read. And oh, damn, like he's an amazing salesman.
I read that
He
first
would have
paragraph.
been
I
a
was like,
marketing genius if he had like gone into like advertising.
Mhm.
I did the first paragraph of that Matthew Corbett book that he hyped up. Dude, the first paragraph's gas. It is so good. Like I read it, I was like, "Holy shit!"
Just listening to him talk about it, I'm sitting there like on my sofa,
Never heard people
YouTube on the
think that
television, listening to you
before.
two talking, and just he starts going on about it. And before he was finished, I had Amazon open. I ordered that book.
Actually,
Unfortunately, it has to come from America, so it's going to take forever. But
Here, let me see if I have the sample on my
Yeah,
phone. I'll read,
exactly.
I'll read you the sentence. It is an absolute banger. Okay, check this out. It's like the third sentence that I was like, okay, I'm in. So came the time when the two travelers knew night would catch them, and shelter must be found. It had been a joyful day for frogs and muffins. I don't know what that means. For the human breed, however, the low gray clouds and chill ran coiled chains around the soul. And I was like, let's fucking go. Like that is a banger of a line. Loved it.
what that means with frogs is it was wet.
No, like what's a mud hen? I don't know what a mud hen is.
Yeah, it's like a kind of bird, like a
Is it
duck.
disease?
No, it's a bird that likes wet
Is
weather.
it a diseased bird?
That lives in the mud. Yeah.
Seems like a bad decision. They should probably not do that.
I would move if I lived in the mud. Yeah.
Yeah, waterfalls stream through the thick branches that interlocked 40 feet above the road. The leaves of ancient oaks and elms and the needles of the lofty pines were more ebon than green, the huge trunks bearded with moss and blotched by brown lumps of fungus the size of a blacksmith's fist. Like, Jesus, he's cooking.
Whoa.
He's cooking.
very evocative. Oh yeah.
Oh, the alliteration. Oh.
There's certainly a rhythm to it.
Tell us how you really feel about that, Jimmy.
I'm getting my second.
Your
win
second
here.
wind. You were yawning a bit there, but yeah. Corbett woke you back up.
Yeah, Pete's coffee. God bless.
Remind me what book that is, Jimmy.
That is Speaks the
Speaks the
Nightbird, Matthew
Nightbird.
Forbear, Book 1 by Robert McCammon, aka
Yeah.
Stevie King. He just writes Stephen King books again.
Stephen Kingish.
Hey,
Although
yeah.
those don't sound Stephen Kingish at all.
No, they're not. And I'm speaking tongue in cheek about Robert. I'm not. But Stephen King actually has an endorsement on the front of this book. Says it's dope. He didn't say dope, but essentially he said
Historical detective story,
Mhm.
the way it ought to be written.
The way it ought to be written. I would say
Yep.
yes.
A diamond in the rough, maybe.
I really want to see Gurm. Well, first of all, I really want to see him put out Winds of Winter. But when he does, I want to see him blurb his own book on the front, and it'll say fantasy the way it ought to have been written 10 years ago.
I hope that the front cover is him in his conductor hat, and then the opening page, the cover page, like inside sleeve, is just a train. I don't know why. It's kind of what I want. Anything else would be a disappointment at this point.
Does he really have the initials RR in the middle of his name, or did he just do that because Tolkien?
He did it because of Tolkien. Yeah. It stands for railroad. Yeah.
It literally stands for railroad.
It doesn't, but I
Yeah.
like to think it does.
I'm certain it does.
The conductor hat really.
It does
we,
now.
we got your joke already
Oh,
earlier. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
we're gonna clip this, right?
Yeah. I'll fix it in post.
Okay, good. Whew.
No problem.
Yeesh. You got to get Brian Lee Durfee's editors on this.
I'm thinking his cat. Or,
Mhm.
I'm thinking Matt R.R. Ballara.
Well, you got to have
gotta-
initials.
Sort of ring to it.
You'll get free airtime on the Library of Alexandria when he does his biannual video, and he'll complain about your initials being in your author name. That's all.
And then people could also call me Merb.
Merb
There you go.
That'd be fun.
sounds like a
Yeah.
rare rock.
Durfeed in editing. Oh, I totally Durfeed up this video.
I was teasing Alan when I published Bloodstones that the reason that I used Tori Tekken instead of VR Tekken was simply because of Alan, which is there is a tiny kernel of truth in that, actually.
LTube asked me on Wednesday, he's like, is there any booktuber that doesn't make videos anymore? You should come back. And I said, yeah, Alan from Library.
Poor Alan.
Yeah, he's
Also-
just sitting around, honestly. Like,
What
he
is
could be
jabroni?
doing something
Just
productive with his
fuming.
time.
And
Also, Tori, VR Tekken makes it sound like you're not a real girl.
Well, I am not like the other girls.
Not like the other
Oh.
girls, but you are real.
VR Tekken.
You've
it
never
sounds
met
like-
me in person.
It's facts. I told you, I'm not
That's
real.
True.
My whole channel is AI.
That's true. Damn, you're a
Yeah,
very
but
good
it's
AI, though.
just-
We have had
you're
live
just
chats
a-
for hours, so
I'm really just saying the same shit over and over and over and over.
Tori RR Tekken. No, I think it should be Tori TT Tekken, because then you'd be TTTT.
No, because then
Didn't
people
I ever
will call
ask
me
you about
tart.
the video game?
I always think of tech in the video game. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
does a lot of other. So do a lot of other people.
Especially if you called yourself VR Tekken, because everyone would think it was like the new
VR
VR
Tekken.
version of.
Yeah.
That's a good way to rank in the Google results, though. But
True.
what the hell is this?
Oh my God, they're putting out Tekken in
When they're
VR.
on page like 54 of the Google results. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's why they named the horse Torrent in Elden Ring. Because you type in Elden Ring Torrent, and you would get the horse pages, and then you'd get the illegal torrents. That's really, I think that's why they did it. It's smart.
There isn't actually in the game any kind of sensible reason why the horse is called Torrent. So
No, it's
If you
definitely
like
SEO.
alliteration, Darko, you should read Legend of Blackjack. It has a shitload of alliteration in this
Paid
book.
to plug this book.
I was
AR,
not.
AR Witham slipped you some cash, didn't he?
Yeah, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, and my mortgage went up, and then Britain's like, oh, there's a mortgage in this book.
I got a mysterious envelope the other day.
Yeah,
I like this idea. It should just add more R's the longer his series goes. So, like in the first one, he
One
would
for
have just
each
been
year
George
it's
R.
been?
Martin. Oh God, for each year,
Listen.
like his name wouldn't fit on the book anymore.
man's 75. If I do anything after 60, you guys should all be thankful. I after you hit 65, no one can ask you about anything. It's over. You get to do
I'm-
whatever you want.
As the biggest Gurm fan I know, And I don't just mean your guns. I mean like your.
Oh, I thought you were saying you were the biggest Gurm fan. And I was like,
No. I'm asking you a question as the biggest Gurm fan I know.
okay,
And Kyle's gonna like appear in the chat and start yelling at me now.
here's not Kyle.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think he'll ever finish it?
No,
No.
he's 75.
Yeah, no. I mean, I haven't thought he's going to finish it since like he put out the last book.
No, he's not going to finish it. I mean, he might. We will get some form of wins. Wins will come out in a form somehow. If it's a finish that he did it or after or whatever, it will come out.
Yeah.
There's too much of it written not to be published.
If
However,
Brandon Sanderson finishes it,
oh my God, these people. Like
Sando's going to be known as the finisher now.
let me tell you something. All right, I'm gonna calm
I
down.
don't think he would do that.
No,
I guess
they're
we
kidding.
can-
They're kidding, Britain. They're kidding.
Oh,
They're triggering me. on
I'm
purpose.
being
We're-
facetious,
We're not serious, but some people are.
Because here's what's happening.
which is terrifying, to be honest.
We went from Brandon Sanderson finishing it as that being like a serious, like in the zeitgeist of what we do. Like people are like, oh, Brandon Sanderson finished, which is ridiculous. But
Yeah.
then people, and now the new thing is that Daniel Abraham will finish it, which does make
Of
sense
course. Makes more sense
until you hear
because
when he said, I will not do this.
yeah,
And you're like,
Yeah.
okay. And it's like people are like, yeah, he doesn't know. He doesn't mean it though. And I'm like, guys, if him and Ty Franck aren't going to finish it, they're not going to finish it. And George, to this day, his record is still that he said he doesn't want anyone to finish it for him. He said it'll be done. And there's somewhat of a conversation to be had that his attitude has changed about this recently because of some of his friends that have been dying. And he's like, it'd be a shame if someone didn't pick this up and finish it, which is like not the attitude he used to take about these things. So I wonder if he has changed his mind. But until he publicly says he's changed his mind, I mean, it's a wrap. Plus, also, anyone
Daniel Abraham and Ty Franck are a bit younger than him, though. Yeah,
they're not young, but yeah,
I mean they're
younger
not
than him.
young, but they're like
They're
still
not
like
75.
But,
15
but they
years
said
younger
they
than
didn't want
him,
to do it.
more,
They said
but
they said at one point in our careers we would have said yes. We would not say yes now. And I think
Okay.
that's probably because they found their own success. You know, it's like if Stormlight and Mistborn had taken off before Brandon had finished Wheel of Time, he wouldn't have wrote Wheel of Time, I don't think. And that's why if
No.
someone does end up finishing George R. R. Martin stuff,
amazing opportunity. You know,
yeah,
Mhm.
it will be someone that we have probably never talked about. Because George edits for
Yeah.
tons of people. Tons
Yeah.
and tons of people.
yeah. He
So-
knows the entire industry of people writing sci-fi
Yeah.
and fantasy because he just edits short story collections constantly and
Yes.
wild cards and all that stuff.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that it'll be someone we've never heard of, most likely.
Like Neil Gaiman. No,
Oh my
Who's
god.
that?
let him write the Dragon's POVs.
That would be a tone shift.
That would be quite a tone shift. Yes. Yes.
You know, Gaiman and King love Game of Thrones. Like they love it.
Oh yeah.
They have this big thing where Gaiman wrote a forward and he talked about how Stephen King was like, Neil, be honest with me. Do you think he's going to finish it? And Neil's like, I think he's going to finish it. Like there's this, like they love the series. I just think that's really interesting. And also King doesn't like other fantasy series. Like he didn't like the Wheel of Time. Like he was like, yeah, I tried to read the Wheel of Time. That sucked. Like, damn, King, relax.
High five. Yeah. No, I'm not
Talk about a
I'm-
cowboy fantasy. Dark Tower is wild.
I don't even know what Dark Tower is, but I like it for some reason.
I love it.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
not
it.
I
like,
think it's
I don't know if
wild
it's
in a good way. I'm not saying it's bad. Like, yeah,
Well, no,
I
I
have
don't know.
it's
Sure, it's
wild.
good, honestly. But I like
I'm not. It's not consistently good. I mean, for
Yeah.
sure, it's not consistently good.
sloppy.
There's parts of it that are amazing, but it's not good front to end, front to back. I mean, it's like there are weird bits of it where you're like, okay, Steve, what are you doing here?
Large
right now?
swaths of books that are just awful. Like it's
I wouldn't call it personally. I wouldn't call any of them just awful, and I know there are some that the consensus seems to be they're bad, and I liked them, but there are
Well,
certainly bits.
we both like Song of Susanna, I believe, right? Yeah, I like Song of
Exactly.
Susanna. I
Everybody
like-
else hates it. Everybody
Yeah.
hates.
Yeah,
Song
you and I are
of
the
Susanna.
only people. I
was
think
like,
I think Philip also.
it's
likes
actually
it.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Book 7's a drag though. Until the end, it's a drag. The Breakers.
Which one's
The
which one's
Breakers?
7?
The Dark Tower, self-titled.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The endings,
Yeah.
all that stuff's interesting to me. There's like some stuff I
The
like.
very end,
all that
which a
stuff-
lot of people hate, I
lot of-
love, mostly
lot of-
because I'm Buddhist, and it's like it
I-
was kind of the obvious ending to me.
There's a
Um,
lot to like discuss about the ending, but the whole breaker section in that book is ass.
Yeah,
Like it is just like, why is this happening? Ugh.
there are some really beautiful visuals in that bit that I quite liked. But overall, yeah. Also, I did that one. As I understand it, that's the big tie-in to Insomnia, which I haven't read,
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
and it felt a lot like that's why it was there.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Insomnia is also one of those books that's really polarizing. Some people says it cures insomnia, and then some people say it's awesome. So,
Yeah.
I've never read it.
I haven't read
It's
any,
big. I'm not reading.
basically any of the tie-in books except The Stand. I haven't read it. I haven't.
You read Salem's Lot, didn't you?
No, my mother told me not to when I was 9.
That's a good book. You should read it.
I've heard it's a good.
I think
book.
it's good, but it does that concept better.
I know most of
Yeah.
the story now because it's in the Dark Tower.
Honestly, yeah, you might not even need to read it because it's
I've got it on the shelf. I want to read it. I'm
not
sure
too
it's
long either.
No, it's not. It's
Small
nothing
town
like The Stand.
atmosphere done perfectly. It's very
Yeah.
good.
King's very good at that.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's kind of his thing. I have to go. I'm meeting
All right.
some people for dinner here soon. But this was wonderful. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Thanks for stopping by.
playing.
As I said, I will not invite you again. It's an open always invitation forever. So go on the fireside, look in the thread in my channel. You can
And
find the
grab the
link.
link.
It's in there every
that's where it
Friday or
was.
Saturday. And you're welcome anytime.
No, I
Good
appreciate
to have
it.
you here, Jimmy.
Yep. Thanks everyone. Chat. Britton, Tori,
See you, man.
always pleasure. Tori, I will
Always
see you
fun,
not this
Jimmy.
Thursday, but next Thursday.
Sounds good.
Have a lovely
Looking forward
week.
to it.
See y'all.
Tori, you're reading Guns at Dawn.
I am reading Guns of the Dawn, and it is excellent so far.
Yeah?
It's basically like if Jane Austen's Lizzie Bennet was dropped into a flintlock warfare fantasy. And I love it.
Okay.
It's
Isn't that
awesome.
Tchaikovsky who wrote that?
Mhm. And it's a
That's good.
standalone.
That man
Yep.
is a machine.
He writes in so many different like pockets of genre. It's amazing.
I bumped into a best new books of 2023 list, and he was listed under 3 different genres
Mhm.
because he brought out 3 new books that were all, one of them was sci-fi, one of them was fantasy, one of them was mystery, or I don't know, something else.
Yep.
He's totally a machine, unbelievable.
And
I'm almost afraid to start reading him because if I like him, like there'll be just so many things that I will not have read.
I mean, I'm only about halfway through, not quite halfway through, but I can see you enjoying Guns of the Dawn.
Yeah. No, I've got it. I bought it not too long ago. It's one of those books, like I've gotten pretty used to extremely diametrically opposed opinions about books. And I don't think I've ever heard someone read Guns of the Dawn and didn't like it.
I haven't either. I'm not
You
going
know
to be
that?
one of them.
No, I've just like everybody I've heard that's read it has just been like, damn, this is good. You should read it. You know?
The other one that I really want to get to of his is Shards of Earth, because I've heard that there's a really good sci-fi Motley Crue in that one. So
Okay.
that's kind of my next acquisition for him, I think.
I've got actually, for some reason, I think I must have been listening to Anitha and Pete or something too often.
As one does.
Yeah, I recently bought City of Lost Chances, Guns of the Dawn, and the sci-fi spider thing that he's known for. The title of which
Children
I'm
of
forgetting.
Time.
Yeah, exactly. Children of Time, the first book. So I have 3 of his books on the shelf, and yeah.
Well, I mean, you could catch up and buddy read it if you wanted to drop everything else. Guns of the Dawn.
I mean, this is a surprisingly quick book.
I want to get to that one soon.
It's
That's
first
a
of all,
sci-fi one, isn't it?
it's better if you don't know anything about it when you start it. It's only 280 pages,
Mhm.
and being a designer, I opened it up and I was like, "This is not 280 pages. This is 180 pages," because it's slightly larger typography, and it's slightly larger leading, the space between the lines, vertical space between the lines, and it's got really large margins. So they padded it out to get the physical dimensions like this. Chadia, I am really enjoying it. It's a very different read than most things. But maybe what infuriated you is what I actually like about it quite a lot. Most of the writing, or not writing, but most of the way the main character is telling the story is very mundane. It's like totally mundane. She's talking about growing up, and she's talking about petty, stupid bullshit that girls do to each other. And she's talking about first romances and, all it's super mundane. And then over and over again, she drops these things where you're like, wait a sec. What was that? What? I don't know what you're talking about right now. And you start to piece together the mystery that is kind of the world and culture and that kind of thing. And it's, if it was just the characters without the weird bits, I probably would have DNF'd it, because it's mundane. I mean, he does characters really, really well. Like, he obviously understands extremely well how people think, how they act, why they do what they do. And he writes that very, very well. But it would just be kind of mundane kids growing up and doing stuff with each other. But the weirdness makes it into a mystery. And I can be hooked very easily by a good mystery. Okay. You also liked it, Chadia. Yeah. Infuriating, and you liked it. Yes. Okay. I get that. Yeah. Ron says it's kind of supposed to be. Yeah. It's making me, first of all, I got like 20 pages into it and I was like, yeah, okay, this guy won a Nobel Prize for Literature and the Booker Prize. I'm not too surprised. He can write really well. And now I'm like, especially because I find these editions so beautiful, so simple and beautiful. I'm probably going to go out and order everything he ever wrote. I mean, which is only 8 books, and they're like similar size, most of them.
Buried Giant is interesting. My friend Jason really likes Ishiguro.
Like, everything I've read anything about that he's written sounds really interesting. Like he just, and he's written everything, sort of historical fiction, science fiction, contemporary stuff, all of that.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when like big literary writers write like speculative fiction, because like it goes either two ways. Either one, they don't understand it and they just go over all the stuff that's already been done to death in sci-fi, or it's actually pretty good.
The way he writes this, he's approaching a genre that a lot of people are written in, and he's doing it in a totally different way than I've seen anyone else do it. It's really, really good. Stoner is a similar thing. It's extremely mundane. And kind of boring in places, but very intentionally.
I have that on my shelf. I'll get to it eventually.
Oh God, read Stoner. Have you read Augustus? You sent it to me a while ago. I thought you'd read it. Yeah.
That was one of my top reads of whatever year I read it in, 2022.
Yeah. I mean, he's also super interesting, like John Williams. None of his books are even slightly similar to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Augustus is Roman history epistolary, and Stoner is a story about, kind of a boring story about a professor, but not boring. And Butcher's Crossing is kind of a Westernish thing, and Jerome says Clara and the Sun's also good. Yeah, I've heard that. I've got it on my shelf. I want to read it. Yeah. Pale View of Hills. See, I was thinking after I finished Never Let Me Go if I just go and buy all of his books, I'll probably read them then in publication order. So I'd start with Pale View of Hills. Have the two of you read Sun Eater? Mac
Not yet.
wants to know.
No, I might
Soon.
save that for next year. Be honest. There
If
it is.
I'm pretty
Finishing
sure you'd love it, Tori.
I'm anticipating. I'm once I finish my read through of Red Rising, and finish up a couple of other things, I might start that.
It's really good. It's not consistent. I mean, what series is? Like Jimmy and I were talking about it earlier. The latest book, which I've read, Jimmy hasn't read it yet, is mixed. The second half is epic. The first half is a bit slow.
Mm.
And in the series, there are certain books. It's one of those series that most people seem to agree on. Like Malazan, you ask a Malazan fan what's their favorite book, and you're almost always going to get a different answer.
Mm-hmm.
But Sun Eater, everyone's like, Howling Dark is probably the best one, and it's sort of an up and down series. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to read it.
Biggest issue with Sun Eaters, you don't really click with Hadrian. Yes, Hadrian is a bit of an idiot. At least in the first couple of books. He does kind of get better. Yeah, I'd say he probably gets better.
I mean, that's a fairly common. I mean, if you look at some of the other famous like single protagonists, and like you've got Fitz, and you've got Darrow in Red Rising, who is also a moron most of the time. So, yeah,
likable. It does not always mean interesting, and vice versa.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes not that interesting or likable. Like Severian. But yeah, although Severian's interesting, he's definitely not super likable necessarily. But
the Book of the New Sun guy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Still need to read that.
He's easy to not like, but he's interesting. Brian says he's not sure you'll enjoy it.
I've heard a couple of people with that opinion.
Yeah. There's one
That's
particular
fair.
book. Kingdoms of Death. I'm wondering whether you would have a similar reaction as you did to Ship of Magic.
Maybe.
Although the bad stuff that's going on in that is a bit more. There's a bit more distance, I think, to it.
Mm.
And it's a bit more over the top, which makes it almost easier because it's not so real and relatable feeling.
That was the weird thing about Ship of Magic, is I think a lot of the things that I really struggled with Ship of Magic are things that I have had no issue with in other books. It's just the way that Hobb designs her characters. That's that barrier, that psychic barrier that we have in fantasy.
Yeah,
isn't there quite as heavily.
She gets past your shields.
Yes.
Yeah, and then if it's hard to deal with, then it's really hard to deal with. Yeah. Ida wants to know when we're reading Wars of Light and Shadow. I recently saw.
There's so many fantasy out there, man.
John's talking story. John did an interview with Jenny, which I watched yesterday, and it just made me want to read that series. I was mixed on To Ride Hell's Chasm. I've said it before. The first half I thought was great, and then a lot changes in the middle, and the second half just felt very predictable and repetitive.
I actually like the second half better, I think.
Okay.
Of the two. Yeah.
It just felt to me like there were two things going on. One of them was the same thing over and over again.
Yep.
And the other was a character interaction, which I think was meant to be mysterious where it's going. And to me, it wasn't at all mysterious where it was going. It was really obvious from the beginning. And I was like, I like the ending.
Mhm.
the ending, but the whole sort of second third of it or whatever wasn't great. Matthew Corbett series is consistent. Yeah, I like. I'm easily convinced. I'm very impressionable, but listening to John Talking Story talk about the Matthew Corbett series, I was just like, damn, this sounds like something I absolutely have to read as soon as possible. So we'll see. But yeah, anyone plans to read Wars of Light and Shadow?
Dude, there's so many fantasy I need to read. Robin
You look-
Hobb,
You look
Gene
so
Wolfe,
depressed, Britton.
Guy Gabriel Bay. So many. I don't know when I'm gonna get to it. I'm 43, but like it.
You got more time than the rest of us.
I know, but
You got a lot more
TBR
time than I do.
I mean, TBR is still ridiculous.
True. I don't know when I'm going to read Wars of Light and Shadow. Hell's Chasm, I have heard in terms of prose style is very similar, or at least it's a good kind of primer for the series. And I enjoyed to ride Hell's Chasm, but it is going to take a very specific headspace for me to be ready for that big of a series in that specific prose style. Because I personally, and I talked about this a little bit with Nico when we did our prose discussion, I like to be invited in and to fill in the blanks with my, because it keeps me focused a little bit more with, I have a hard time with very, very descriptive prose because I get bored and kind of fall out of it because I'm like, what am I supposed to just watch through a glass window, or am I supposed to like be involved in the imagination bit of this at all? And so I have to work a lot harder to immerse in descriptive prose, which is a me thing, not a prose thing.
Sure.
But it would take me, like, I'd be mentally exhausted reading a series that long in that prose style for sure.
Yeah, it's not a. I mean, that's also one of the things I'm really enjoying about this is like the prose style is so straightforward. I've read 180 pages of it in like 4 hours.
Right.
You know, no problem.
Yeah, and sometimes I want, you know, like I really enjoyed to ride Hell's Chasm, and then I went and read like Guards after that because I needed a complete switch up of
something lighter and simpler. Yeah.
Yep. So I'd need to intersperse it with that.
This year.
It's so good. I loved it.
It's really good. I read it last year at some point. In fact, I put it in between two Malazan books.
I hear a bunch of people griping at me like, no, do Color of Magic first, or no, do the Weird Witches
do
first.
Whatever you want.
Like that. I'm like, dude, Guards. I made up my mind. Please, like, just stop like trying
read
to
whatever you want.
I heard so many people, even big Pratchett fans, say that the Color of Magic and the very beginning in the publication order are comparatively so weak that I just wasn't interested. And then I watched Alan's Where to Start with Discworld video, and he explains like all of the sub-series and all of that. And the one that sounded most interesting was God's Guard or the City Watch. And I read God's Guards and I was like, this is so much fun. I'm really enjoying this.
Carrot is already one of my favorite characters of the year. I'll be shocked if he isn't in my top 5. I love him.
Carrot
I want to protect him at all costs. Yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah. Carrot is very cool. Vimes I also can relate to
is good.
A lot. The whole all the little plots with the cult guys and everything. I mean, it's hilarious. It's really hilarious.
Funny.
I managed to find, and they're not that expensive, which confuses me, the hardbound, the small
really ones.
hardbound ones with the bookmark ribbon, and they cost as much as paperbacks normally cost.
Yeah.
Over here, anyway. So I bought the first 3 of those. I've got Man at Arms and I think Feet of Clay. Already on my shelf.
I think Ben and I are going to listen to Men at Arms on our trip in June. So I'm looking
Where are you going?
Cool.
Kentucky.
Oh,
Why are
So
you
you're
going to
going, like-
Kentucky?
Because of the Creation Museum and the Ark.
Ah, okay.
I have been to both. Ben has not seen the Ark yet, so we're gonna. And it's just us. We haven't gone on more than a 1 or maybe 2-ish night stay since before we had our oldest, who is now going to be 12. So we're looking forward
It's
to
been
it.
a while. Yeah.
It's been it's gonna be nice. It'll be fun.
I think that's a very good idea for couples that have kids.
Yes.
Get away from the kids sometimes.
Yep.
Very important. Remember that you are actually adults.
Yes, you will miss them the whole time, but also
course.
it's like it's going to be nice because we've got a little Airbnb that's like out in the middle of farmland, Kentucky, and so for part of the time we're just going to like hang out and write, and I can't wait. It's
Cool.
gonna be awesome.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
You'll have to put some Kentucky footage in one of your videos.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
I'm
Out in
gonna
the countryside.
swing through and meet up with Andrew Wizard, and I think I might get
Cool.
to see Murphy while we're down there.
Oh,
and
nice.
then Nuclear Katie's gonna come up and hang out with us for one of the days. It'll be a good time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like a booktube tour.
Cool.
Murph.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd love to do something like that, but pretty much everybody, because I don't really do German booktube,
You can meet
almost
up with Raph.
everybody is super far away. Yeah, Raph, I almost, I think a month after I started my channel, and I'd already been in Raph's comments and whatever, my job said, "Oh, you need to go do some travel, and you need to go down to Marburg." And I was like, Marburg. I wrote Raph, and I was like, "Dude, do you live in Marburg?" He was like, "Yeah, I do." I was like, "Well, I'm going to be there next week." And we had a whole plan. We were going to get together, drink some beer, record some stuff together, and my trip got canceled. And
Ouch.
Marburg is 6 hours away on a train, so it's not like I'll just drop by anyway, you know. So didn't do it.
You'll have to come to a
Unfortunately.
convention stateside at some point. That'd be fun.
Yeah, no, I was looking at maybe coming to AFCA, the American Fantasy whatever convention that, you know, AP and Philip and
Oh, IFCA?
IFCA.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In Florida. And Alan lives in Florida, and you know, the guys were maybe going to come down, and Joanna lives in Georgia somewhere.
Didn't
It
AP
was-
live in Florida? too?
AP lives in Florida now, and but nobody was going. For some reason, none of them went to IFCA last year, or maybe AP did, but like a bunch of them that had gone weren't going. So I did not come over. It's not cheap
hmm
necessarily to come over to the States from over here. I'm way behind on the comments. I'm just scrolling through. Men at Arms even better than Guards, which is cool.
Can't wait.
Yeah. What's heartbreaking?
That your
Oh,
trip
maybe
got
not
canceled.
being- maybe
Oh,
not-
that I didn't go down and see Raph. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like we hardly knew each other. At some point, I'm sure him with his heavy metal tours or me with work or something, we will be nearer each other, and we'll manage to have a beer together. That would be fun. I would really
I
like that.
love Raph's.
he's-
Oh,
He's the only booktube person I know at all in Germany, I think.
I freaking love his thumbnails. They're always They're always so funny.
Yeah. He's got a good friend who does those for him, of course.
I know,
Um,
but they're great.
But
I love 'em.
yeah. Can we all come to Oktoberfest in Germany instead? Actually, if you all came to Oktoberfest, you would not see me there because I will not go to fucking Oktoberfest. Like, I think everybody has everybody who isn't in Germany has a much more romantic idea of what Oktoberfest is like than Germans do. The kind of people that go to Oktoberfest are not the kind of people I want to hang out with, especially not when they're all really drunk. Generally, what people do is sit in a tent, drink way too much beer, and then go and piss right outside the tent. It's just like everything I've heard about Oktoberfest has never made me want to go there.
So basically, you're wary
Um,
of boorish tourists.
Yeah, and like it's half tourists and half tourists, half a quarter German rednecks and a quarter extremely
German
privileged
rednecks? What?
German.
What?
The other quarter is like really overprivileged German rich people who rent special tents.
There's
Just for them.
rednecks in Germany.
Celebrity. There's rednecks everywhere in the world, or at least in Western culture everywhere in the world. Yeah, totally.
Are there rednecks in Minnesota? Oh my god.
Yep.
rednecks
I mean, I know there's
everywhere.
rednecks out here because I live in Oklahoma, but
Oh yeah. I live in the rural Midwest. So yes, absolutely.
they burn their trash.
Chadia also has a good point. There are Europeans that could meet up, but most of them are introverts. So yeah, no, I grew up in Florida. Don't worry, I know all about rednecks in Florida. I actually have family who are rednecks in Florida. My stepmother's family, she managed to escape and go and get a PhD and become a professor, but she comes from a swamp in the middle of Florida, and her family, who I grew up visiting every Christmas for years, are Floridian swamp rednecks, which are like, it does not get any redder or neckier. Like that's like, those are the rednecks.
I was gonna say there's there's definitely a spectrum of rednecks for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and the redneckiest it gets is Floridian swamp rednecks. Oh my god!
I would believe that.
Like she
It
had a
always seems
brother
like
named
everything goes
Rocky
down in Florida. Like there's always those Florida man memes.
for reasons.
People love to get down in Florida. I guess I don't know.
I have a friend who lives down in Florida, and I was talking to her while she was driving home from her job one day, and all of a sudden she goes, "Oh my gosh, stop, hold on." I was like, "You all right? Like, what happened?" She's like, "There's an alligator in the road. It's fine." Like, she's just like, okay.
I grew up like when I was a kid. Like for background, I was actually born in America. I was born in Washington D.C., but my dad was from Florida. So when my parents divorced, he was in Florida. I used to go down there and visit him all the time. His family is Floridian. My grandmother, his brother, whatever, my cousins, they're all in Florida. And I used to be down in Florida all the time. When I was a kid, I used to entertain myself at my grandmother's by throwing rocks at gators.
Yeah.
Gator tail is one of my favorite things in Florida to eat. Gator tail is really good. So I know Florida quite
I've had
well.
gator jerky. That's pretty good.
I don't know if I've ever had gator jerky, but I used to get gator tail as sort of bar snacks all the time.
Nice.
Do gators breathe fire? No, but they move surprisingly fast. As I learned when I was throwing rocks at them, which they mostly ignored, and then one of them had enough, and he charged me. And I was like, oh my God.
I bet you ran for your life.
I'm not sure I can get away fast enough. But luckily they only run really fast for very short distances. And I was not that close. So I didn't get eaten. But my grandmother's next door neighbor's extremely annoying poodle did get eaten by a gator.
Oh no.
Nobody was sad about it, except her, the owner. Because it was the most annoying dog in the world. But it was running around a gator way too close, barking its head off at it, and the gator was just sitting there like a log. And then it was like, okay, I've had enough of this shit. Rock! And just one bite.
Oh, that's
Gone.
awful.
Yeah. Gators are, yeah. You don't want to hang around gators too much. Yeah, very rednecky. So I'm getting to the point where I think I need to go because it's almost 11 here.
Fair enough, man.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you both for joining. Thank you, Jimmy, for joining. I think that was the first time he joined. Every now and then I go out of my way to explicitly invite someone who hasn't been on before.
Nice.
Well, especially booktubers, because I think booktubers are used to only doing live streams on someone else's channel when they're invited.
Sure.
and nobody else does something like the Sunday Pub where it's like, no, anyone can join anytime they want. Just here's the link, do it. So I make a point of occasionally inviting a booktuber or an author. Next week, important. Next week there is no Sunday Pub, but
There's a
instead
stream.
of the Sunday Pub, Joanna and Josh and I, that is the three hosts of the Fireside Discord, we are doing a stream. We are surprising each other with a book we have to read. I'll explain all the details next time, but important to know, it's an hour earlier than the pub usually is. So the pub usually starts at 2 p.m. EST. This will be 1 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. my time. And there will not be a link to join. It will be just a live stream with Joanna and Josh and me revealing what books we picked for each other, talking about it, hanging out, whatever. So all you pubbers, hopefully you will come. I hope the time change is not a problem. We just couldn't do it. We couldn't get our schedules together on such short notice and do it at 8 my time or 2 EST. So it'll be an hour earlier, but it should be fun, even if it's not a pub officially. I'm looking forward to it. I have no idea what I'm going to be reading. And thank you to Tori. Tori was our Secret Santa helper, so to speak. We're kind of doing it Secret Santa. We decided
It's May.
we don't want don't be so literal, Britain. We decided we didn't want to force each other to buy new books. So we each came up with a list of 10 books that we own, that we haven't read. We sent them to Tori, and then Tori scrambled them and sent like my list to someone and someone's list to me and so on. And then we pick from that list. So we know that we're not going to be horribly surprised. We know they are books we own and we want to read, and we chose them ourselves, but it's going to be one of that 10. And I'm really, really curious. First of all, who is picking my book, whether it's Josh or Joanna, and what they're going to pick. I've already picked mine for someone.
I actually probably know more about who's potentially picking what and what they're picking.
You not potentially. You definitely know more about.
Well, even after sending the list, though, because there were some follow-up comments from everybody. So
yeah, so Tori pretty much knows who's picking for everyone and probably also what we picked. So thank you, Tori, for that. That will make it a lot of fun. It's really going to be a bit of a surprise within limits, because I know that they're picking from these 10 books and I want to read all of those 10 books. So it's just a question of which one I'm going to have to read first. Then we're going to do, like in a month or 5-6 weeks, we'll do another stream where the three of us come together and talk about the books we read and what we thought of them. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So thank you, everybody. And we will see you next week, an hour earlier, for that. Have a lovely week, everyone. Enjoy your reading.
See you guys later.
I'm gonna